Hello, and welcome to episode 21 of the IP3 podcast. I'm Kevin, joined today by Alex Becker and Ray Adams, and today we're going to talk Rosetta Limited. We're going to give you our full set review, and we're going to do it in record time.
Yes.
This is the third time. We're aiming for
Getting
sub 2 hours for the whole
getting
episode,
faster every time.
faster every
That's so true.
time. Um, Before we hop into that, which is going to take the vast majority of the time, uh, one new announcement: Skirmish Season 10 is happening, which I think we knew about this at least for the most part. We got official dates and prizes and stuff for that. Skirmish Season 10 is going to be Sealed, Blitz, and LL. So we're going to have three different format possibilities. Um, First place is Cold Foil Terra and Cold Foil Redwood Hammer. Um, and top four gets Cold Foil Channel Thunderstep. So that'll be sweet. It's a little inconvenient timing wise, potentially, because there's the Calling Chicago, and the week before that is potentially the Realm Invitational, and the week before that is the Thanksgiving weekend. So
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because last year I remember Worlds happened, and then it was like, okay, see you in February. Fab is just over for the next 2 months. And this year they're like, no, you want to play in November, December? We got you because it's just there's plenty to choose from. It's kind of crazy.
I would definitely rather that be the case, though. Have
Yeah, I
more
mean,
stuff, and I
course,
get to choose
of
what I go
course.
to rather than there being nothing.
Yeah, it's a great
definitely,
change.
and and then Skirmish is not quite PQ season level of
Hmm.
intensity too, so it's a lot more chill to be like, yeah, I think I will go bring Betsy into this Blitz skirmish event and see what happens, kind of thing. And now I just might, if we don't have other
You
stuff to
gotta
go to.
actually bring drinks to offer and wager whenever you drink them under the table.
I'm down. I'm down.
Little bottles of Jack Daniels.
Oh no, please not that. I don't. Me and whiskey, no, we don't get along. That's no, thank you. Rum or tequila for sure. Um, but yeah, so sorry. The actual dates for Skirmish Season 10 starts November 30th, which is just after Thanksgiving. It is Thanksgiving weekend, and runs through December 15th, I think. So it's like runs for 3 weekends, and then that seems like it should sort of close out 2024 as far as competitive fab goes. Um, what else? Oh, last episode, Alex and I were talking a little bit about the fifth anniversary events, and I finally looked at the retailer FAQ and realized what's actually happening. And I don't think that the rest of the world is getting a shot at those fifth anniversary packs. I think it's just the Rainbow Foil Ira promo.
I
Um,
think so, yeah.
yeah, uh,
Which we still don't know what's in the packs, which is interesting. But
yeah.
I have a
I'm
feeling it's.
intrigued.
I have a feeling we won't know what's in the packs until Worlds happens. If I had to guess, just like they did with the Rosetta World Premiere, I have a feeling that's going to be like, come find out, and we're going to get some very blurry photos of people in side events.
I think it'll be sweet. My gut says it's just like greatest hits alternate arts.
I That seems like a pretty safe bet. Yeah.
Sink Below, Sigil of Solace, Snatch, you know, pick your generic. And I hope, I don't know, I'm sure there'll be some that are more rare than others because we're in a TCG here. That's kind of what we signed up for. Um, but it'd be cool if it was some of the like less heralded mainstays of competitive
Hmm.
fab and stuff. But should be sweet. But unfortunately, I don't think we're gonna have a shot at those packs if you're not going to Osaka.
Yeah.
Uh, but all right, down to brass tacks. And before we jump into this, I just want to give a huge, huge thank you to Fabrary, because we're going to be using the Fabrary like card lookup, like card overlay tool for this. So if we're talking about a card and you want to see what it says, it will be on the video, and that has been made 100 times easier for me because February is incredible and worth every penny of my Patreon subscription. Because now there's a filter by limited environment button, and instead of typing in every single card we're going to talk about, I just get to click on them in gallery order, and it's going to be spectacular. So, yeah, February is great, and you should definitely support them if you can, and if you don't already. So, uh, all right.
Yeah, can confirm. Big February supporter. You should too.
Hashtag not an ad, but maybe some.
Hashtag not mad. We just really like him.
Yeah, not Ned, but like if they want it to be, it could be. Who knows? Um, all right, so Rosetta Limited. We've got Rune Blades, we've got Wizards, we've got Earth, we've got Lightning. We have is a contrary to the last couple draft sets, is more of a symmetrical shaped set, I
Mhm.
guess, at least in terms of class and talents. There's no, um, when we looked at MST, it was like, okay, effectively everything was either a class card or a generic in that set because everything had the same talent and all of the class cards were, siloed to a single hero. Uh, Rosetta is starting sort of from the opposite end. There's not a large number of generics, like there's a few, um, but whether you
Yeah.
pick class
Some,
or
some,
talent cards, you're picking, you know, it's applicable to half of the heroes in the set.
some of those generics might as well not even be in the set because they're so bad too.
What you mean? You mean Brush Off isn't an all
Oh, you
star?
spoiled it.
Oh, spoiler alert! Brush Off's in the set, and it's still meh. um, but all right, we'll start uh, from the tippy top here, and the first hero we're going to talk through is Florian. Because it's gallery order, even though that's not what my notes say. So Florian is an Earth Runeblade. Sorry, excuse me. Technically, Elemental Runeblade. Uh, Essence of Earth means he can play Earth cards in his deck and equipment. And Florian's hero ability is if there are 4 or more Earth cards in your banished zone, Florian gets, if you would create 1 or more Aura tokens, instead create that many plus 1 of each of those tokens. Mordred Tide, always on. That is what this effect is once you've reached that 4 cards in banish threshold.
Except it's not just rune chance, which is very important later for one of my card grades.
Very, very true. It is not just rune chance. It is tokens of any type. Um, in constructed formats, that can mean a whole lot of other stuff. Right? If you get to turn on a down but not out and hit with it, you get you know double might
Double
agility.
agility?
Oh yeah, the biggest value. It means you can't be condemned to slaughtered out of your go again next turn. It
That's
has value.
true.
It's real. It's probably not real, but it is neat and noteworthy. It's also worth noting, not relevant to this draft topic, but Florian adult version has a different threshold for turning
Mm-hmm.
on his hero ability. For Blitz and for limited purposes, the threshold is 4 Earth cards in Banish, but in the adult forms, and you'll see this with the Earth Wizard as well, the number is 8 instead of 4. So it takes a bit more work to get your hero ability activated.
But in limited, you will need 2 decomposes because at max, this can banish 3, and you must hit 4, so 2 is going to be the magic number. There's no other ways to banish those cards in the set.
Correct, correct. Florian's weapon in this set is Rotwood Reaper. It's an Earth Runeblade weapon, 2-handed sword. Once per turn action, you can pay 2 to attack with it. Then, if you've played or created an aura this turn, this gets plus 2. Uh, so Rotwood Reaper is a pretty real hoop for something that just ends up being a bone basher when at its full strength. That said, in this limited environment, it is very potent as a weapon that can swing for 4 damage.
Yeah. It's crazy looking back on Welcome to Wraith, where Romping Club was probably the worst weapon in that format. And meanwhile, Rotwood Reaper is the best weapon in Rosetta. But like this limited format feels perfectly fine to play. And so it's crazy how they've brought the power level down and it still feels good.
I definitely think if you have too good of a token weapon, at least in previous where you could run more than 30 cards, it was just run as many cards as you can, and I have this good weapon, and I'm just gonna swing it until
Yeah,
you run out of
totally.
cards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this definitely feels like they threaded that needle where it is good, and it is the best raw damage weapon in the set. So sometimes it can give him an edge in those we're gonna go to fatigue type game states, but at the same time it doesn't feel egregious in that role. All right, so that is Florian and Rotwood Reaper. Obviously, we're going to have a token creation theme going on with Florian. The next Runeblade we're going to look at is Aurora. It's an elemental Runeblade, Essence of Lightning. Starts with 20 health. Sorry, I should have specified. Florian starts with 20 health, as does Aurora. Aurora says, as a once per turn instant, you can pay 2 resources, create an embodiment of lightning token. Activate this only if you've played a lightning card this turn. It's good. Turns out access to Go Again printed on your hero is very potent, and
Yeah.
it remains true here.
It's very skill testing to find the turns where you're supposed to end on the embodiment of lightning for next turn versus I need to be going all out on this turn, so I'm going to create it and spend my embodiment this turn and not have the guarantee to go again next turn. I think if you're very fresh to the format, in general, it's best to keep embodiment up so that you can roll it into future turns. But that's a heuristic. I wouldn't call it a hard line that you always have to follow. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, but it definitely Aurora definitely has the easiest time going wide of any hero in the set.
Oh yeah.
The play style, when you're playing it out, definitely has some comparisons to Fi in the way you play and the types of cards that end up in your deck. And while I have been fatigued by an Aurora in this limited environment, as I think I was Florian, mostly Aurora is going to be playing the aggressor role. In no small part due to Aurora's weapon, Starfall, which is a lightning runeblade weapon. It's also a two-handed sword. Once per turn action, you can attack for 1 resource. It has a base power of 1, but if you've played a lightning card this turn, this card's attacks get +1 and go again.
Yeah, 1 for 2 go again is really good, especially when the other 2 resources are making an embodiment of lightning.
Yep. The curve there, it's very satisfying. It just it lets her operate very smoothly at what she's trying to do. There's going to be a lot of 0 for 4s going on, and if you can go 0 for 4, 0 for 4, 2, make an embodiment, and arsenal a good card for next turn, that's a really effective use of a 4-card hand. But we'll get a little more into that as we get through the rest of the curve. Now we get to our wizard heroes. First, Verdance. Verdance is an elemental wizard hero, Essence of Earth, and then if there are 4 or more Earth cards in your banished zone, Verdance gets whenever you gain life during your turn, specifically during your turn, this doesn't work on the opponent's turn. Whenever you gain life during your turn, you may deal 1 arcane damage to any opposing target. So
aren't we sad it doesn't work on your opponent's turn?
It'd be so gross if it did.
It would be too good and limited. It would
Yeah.
definitely be too good and limited. And I think that's why it doesn't read like that.
Also, she has 20 health.
Sure. Also, she has 20 health. I don't know. It would have made her feel a lot more wizardy.
No, I'm just saying. Kevin didn't mention her.
Oh, yes. All heroes
Yes,
have 4 intellect. 3 of them have 20 health.
First wizard with
full
a
health
full
pool.
health
That's
pool.
true.
And I think that that's probably, because I'm sure they played with it or tested it or looked at the possibility of Verdant's ability working on both turns. And
Yeah.
if they're going to do that, suddenly this can't be a 20 starting health
Hmm.
hero, because just past precedent says if you can damage people on their turn, you don't get to or draw extra cards or do instant speed shenanigans, you don't get a full health pool. That's just kind of how it's worked in the past. Um, it's a neat design and creates some interesting incentives for deck building, I will say. Um, but yeah, so Verdance tends to, well, there's a few different ways that you can build her in the environment. Um, but more importantly, there's only one weapon that you can choose from. So, Staff of Verdant Shoots. It's an Earth Wizard weapon, two-handed staff. Once per turn action, pay 3 resources, amp 1, go again. When one or more Earth cards are pitched this way, the next time you deal arcane damage this turn, create an Embodiment of Earth token.
How far we've fallen from Winter's Wail. I feel like I feel like this could have said amp 2 and it would have been fine. But in limited, it is quite good. Especially because it's just amp. So this into something like a Blossoming Decay or a Fandle's Fighting Spirit with Verdant's ability online, you will still get the amp on the Verdant's trigger from the life gain. And if you pitch an Earth card, you can make embodiments of Earth that really help your survivability because you need to be very efficient in terms of cards spent from deck and wizard. You don't have an infinite weapon, and those embodiments will help a lot with that.
Yeah, definitely. And the amp, so Surge is a mechanic in this set.
Mm-hmm.
Surge is if the card dealing arcane damage deals its base damage or its
More
deals
than its
more
More
base.
than
than
its
its
base
base.
damage. So amp 1 turns every non-attack action that deals arcane into potential surge territory.
Yeah.
And in this limited format, where notably there is no arcane barrier, there's no unlimited supply of arcane defense in this format, which is well worth noting. And so in that world, this amp 1 can be very, very potent depending on what the surge effects are.
Yeah.
And if
Uh,
you can, get a couple points of defensive value off of uh, the embodiments that you make, your deck's gonna. There's a lot of 3-block non-attack actions in the format for wizard in particular.
A lot of
So
zaps.
a lot of zaps.
so
Zap the
many
format.
zaps.
All right.
And then the hero that doesn't have 20 health. I gave it away.
Uh, Shucks. Ocilio. Elemental Wizard starts with 18 health rather than 20. Once per turn instant, discard an instant, draw a card. Essence of Lightning. So Ocilio can play lightning cards in addition to wizard cards. The
18
discard
health.
18 health. The discard an instant, draw a card. Uh, I I've heard it said basically that Ocilio's hero power isn't his hero power. Ocilio's hero power is his weapon.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
and this discard draw a card or discard an instant draw a card effect is sort of a band-aid to the playstyle a little bit. It helps you cycle through and get to the instants you want, but it also helps you occasionally discard an instant and hopefully draw a card that can block if you need to.
Yes.
Because Ocilio is not a hero that can block particularly well on average. Um, so that the discard effect is relevant and it's nice to have, but the main attraction to playing Ocilio is the weapon Bolzar, the Lightning Rod. It's a lightning wizard weapon, two-handed staff. It says, if you control an aura permanent with sigil in its name, this costs 1 resource less to activate. And then once per turn instant, pay a resource, amp X, where X is the number of lightning cards you've played this turn. The next time you would deal arcane damage this turn, instead deal that much plus X. So if you got to rattle off, fry, uh, and then had a sigil in play, you could amp and then follow up with zap for 6.
Yeah.
Um,
And in particular, that kind of is exactly the hand you want to draft in Acilio. You want about half your deck to be lightning cards that say go again. You want a quarter-ish of your deck to be sigils. Sigil of Lightning is the best one. We'll get to that later. And then you want a zap that you don't have to pay for because you just played a sigil. And that's just like what Acilio is going to be looking for in deck building.
Ideally, Acilio never has to pitch.
Yeah, if you're doing it right, you never have to pitch except for your Comet Storm, and that's just because it's 1,000,000 damage.
yeah, that's the single biggest arcane spell in the format, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's the only one that goes above 4, and it's 5 plus whatever it surges. We drafted on Sunday, and I got Comet Storm shocked for 14.
Classic. Who did that? Mark or Chase?
Jason.
Okay.
Yeah, in the finals of the draft.
What a way to go down.
I survived.
Oh, but did you win?
I did.
Oh, okay. Never mind then. All right.
Even more impressive.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Speaking of Comet Storm, should we talk about the new types of cards that are in Rosetta? The split, the meld card.
Absolutely. So in this set with 2 classes and 2 talents, we also have cards with 2 sides. Our first example here, it's actually not the correct first example. We'll start with, actually we'll go with Arcane Seeds first. That one's probably the most straightforward of the bunch to look at. Which is a little ironic because it is still sideways on the screen, but you'll just have to bear with us for these purposes. So Arcane Seeds Life is a 0 cost, pitches for 1 on one half, Runeblade action, on the other half, Earth instant. The Runeblade action side says create a runechant token, go again. So just 2 instances of create 1 runechant token. So it's a yellow read the runes with go again, which is already pretty good.
Which is significant because if you're Florian and you have your 4 Earth cards in Banish Zone, then it makes 2, and then makes 2.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So with Florian Online, Arcane Seeds Life is a 0 for 5 value. Yeah.
I don't need to hear anything else.
Definitely. But so the other half, there's only 2 extra halves to cards in this set. If you're Earth, it's Life, which is simply an instant that says gain 1 life. The cost for each half of the split cards is the same. So Arcane Seeds Life, to cast both halves, still costs 0. But you can pick, right? If there's a weird situation where you think gaining a life would be a bad thing, you don't have to play that half. Or if you have this in your arsenal and it's going to get destroyed by a Command and Conquer, obviously this is a constructed example, but you can play just the life half, gain a point of life for a little bit of value recouped for losing your card.
If you have this in your arsenal and it's about to get destroyed by Destructive Aethertide, which is an unlimited example.
There we go. That's much better.
Or Tongue-Tied.
Yeah.
Tongue-Tied. Yep. But yes, so the way the legality on these cards work is it's inclusive only. So when they first got spoiled, I was like, oh, maybe this will be a way that these split cards will be applicable to more than just one half, like that an Earth hero could take this because it's an Earth instant, or a Runeblade could take it because it says Runeblade on the other side. That is not the case. You have to meet all of the criteria on both halves of the bottom of this card. So you need to be capable of playing Earth and Runeblade cards in your deck. So the split cards, instead of being more open to the different heroes, they're actually the singular most siloed cards in the set.
The
Correspondingly, they have very powerful effects.
And these are kind of your signpost cards. If you're in pack 2, you know you're in Earth, you're like 3 picks in, and you get past an Arcane Seed's life, it's pretty clear sign like, no one to my left is in Florian. I need to hard commit right now. And just ride out this Runeblade for the rest of this pack.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and so that's an example of split cards. We'll get into individual ratings for those momentarily. One last mechanic that I want to touch on specifically before we dive into the uh, set review proper is specifically decompose. Pulling up cadaverous tilling. So decompose, we saw it first spoiled on Felling of the Crown when they first announced that Rosetta was going to be the set. Decompose says, well, it depends on what type of card it's on because it is on both attacks but also a defense reaction. But basically, decompose is when you play this card, you may banish 2 Earth cards and an action card from your graveyard. If you do, here's some bonus effect. For Cadaverous Tilling in particular, it's when this attacks, you may banish 2 Earth cards and an action card from your graveyard. If you do, this gets +2. Pretty straightforward. Cadaverous Tilling is probably one of the premium decompose cards in the set, just because, you know, when it's activated, it's a 3 for 8. It allows you to decompose and get closer to your hero ability being turned on. But you know, the economy and setting up your deck so that you are ready to decompose as early as possible is not as simple as you might think in practice. But there
Just a
are.
note.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Just a note. Decomposing is the only way to get cards
Earth
in
cards and
your
banished.
banish zone. So that is how if you're playing an Earth hero, that's how you are gonna get your hero power online. So make sure not to pass too many of these, because
You
if
def
half the table is playing Earth, they're all gonna want decompose cards. So
I think your baseline goal is at least 4, and you would like that number to be closer to 6 to 8. But like, if you're playing an Earth Hero, you really want 4 decomposed cards.
Yeah.
Otherwise, your draft has gone poorly.
At the world premiere, actually in the calling day 1, I played Florian. I only had 3 decompose cards in my whole pool, but I didn't have any other better hero options. And one game it did take me until second cycle because 2 of my 3 decompose cards were in my opening hand, so I had to pitch them and get them out of the way. But even with just 3 decompose cards, all 8 rounds I got Florian's ability activated. So if you end up light, it's not the end of the world, but you have to be mindful to play to those cards. You can't just block with them willy nilly because Florian is not great if your hero ability is not turned on. Um, all right, so we did
Okay.
split cards, decomposing, surging, the heroes. Um, so
There's one more note, right?
yeah, take it away,
Alex,
Alex.
it's time to battle.
it's time to battle.
So if you're a long time listener, when we were first talking about life gain in this limited format, I was making the argument that I think that gaining 1 life is worth more than 1 point of value. And the reason that I think that is because there's no arcane barrier or consistent way to prevent arcane damage. So you gaining life is basically your way to survive arcane damage. And can we really put a point of value on not losing the game?
I
It's worth at least 1.
and, and I'm
It's
gonna
worth
fight
more
you
than
on
1,
this.
I'd say. Infinite.
By definition, 1 life is 1 value. Like, that's how we define units of value in Flesh and Blood. Gaining life might be better than blocking in this set because of how rates work and how some damage is unblockable. Gaining life might be better than attacking sometimes, but it's not. Gaining 3 is not worth more than 3. Like, by definition, life gain is the unit of currency in value. I will fight you to my grave on this.
We'll just agree to disagree. I don't
Uh,
know. I saw your draft tag. There's an awful lot of yum yum in there for.
Yeah, 3 for 7s, they're great.
I'm not going to be the tiebreaker on if 1 equals 1 or not, but I will say in this particular limited environment, because wizard decks can potentially go 100% arcane damage against you,
Mhm.
whether that is, Acilio going zap, zap variant, or excuse me, flash zap variant into a second zap variant that's a 3 card 6 unblockable for the most part, or Verdance, getting good value out of the staff, coming in with zaps for 4 damage because her staff is amping them consistently, and then letting her block efficiently if you're trying to be the aggressor. Um, life gain is at a particular premium in this limited environment because it is like you won't be able to block all the damage your opponents throw at you, and I sometimes gaining life 2 turns ago keeps you from dying 2 turns later when all the damage is unblockable. Um, and yeah, if you need to have a plan to deal with decks that are planning to just go with quote unquote uninteractable damage against you.
Life gain is the defense reaction of Rosetta, if you want to look at it that way. Because like there is a D-react in the format, but there are no attack reactions, so it's just a card that blocks good. Really, it's like the evasion is arcane, and the defense reaction, the answer to the evasion, is life gain. That doesn't mean that either of those two things are above rate. Arcane is also a bad rate. It's just has evasion stapled on it. Life gain is not a better rate than it actually is. It just is anti-evasion. I rest my case.
If you want a future episode where I don a judge outfit and we actually conduct this in a court of cardboard law, please say so in the
I
comments, and we'll make it
I can
happen, I
dress for
guess.
court.
Okay, well, we have dilly-dallied enough. Let's dive
Yeah.
into the Rosetta set review. Um, so starting from the tippy top, got some Majestics thrown in here. We'll touch on them very quickly. Uh, you know, a good decent number of them are bombs. And I don't think there's any bombier Majestic in the set than the first one we're going to touch on, which is Germinate.
Best
Germinate,
card in the set.
yeah, that's
I think
at
it is
least
the
in
best card in
limited.
the
It's
set.
yeah, it's very 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 good. Germinate is an Earth Runeblade action. It's a 3 block, pitches for 3. Cost is XX, and it's a Florian specialization. Germinate says create a rune chant or embodiment of Earth token. Repeat this process X more times, and then gain X plus 1 life. So, if you are in a late game Rosetta limited environment battle, and your opponent, throws a 3 for 7 that you can afford to just throw a 3 block in front of, or maybe even take the whole damage depending on how many resources you have in hand, you can take your turn and pitch your whole hand into a Germinate. I think that the most I've pitched into a Germinate was, I think, like 8 resources. But with Florian's hero ability active, pitching 8 resources into Germinate will yield 10 rune chance and 5 life for you.
Is it not
I
8
don't
rune
think I don't
chance?
think that math.
No, because it's repeat. If you put
Oh, repeat it
it's
X more. So you
yeah,
always
you
get
always
one.
get the first one. The first one's free. and then you
How is
repeat
this
it.
card? How is this card better than I thought it was?
Yeah, it is. It is somehow better than you thought it was. You can pitch 8 resources and get 15 value from this in limited
Oh
if Florian's activated.
my god.
Yep. Uh, More relevant for constructed is, it's nice sometimes to be like, cool, make a pile of rune chants and then throw a couple embodiments of earth so my next hand can also like block like crazy, which is really nice. I haven't had that come up as much in limited, but this is a bomb. If you see this pack one pick one, you take your germinate and you force
Yes.
Florian.
Congratulations, you are drafting Florian, and you
This
will have the
is
best Florian deck at the table.
yeah, this is the A plus bomb of the set.
Yeah.
And if it's pack 3, you might take it anyways, so that you don't have to play against it.
So that you don't have to play against it, yeah.
Definitely a reasonable hate to pick up.
On the other hand, the other Earth Runeblade Majestic, Thistlebloom Life, which is a yellow zero-cost meld. Create X rune-chant tokens where X is the total life you've gained this turn, is Thistlebloom, which is a Runeblade action without Go Again. Life is an instant that says gain 1. We probably don't need to read Life after the first time.
Yeah, the overall card cost is still 0, but life always costs the same as the other card. They always share the same cost.
And it blocks 3, and this card is really okay. Usually it's going to gain a life and make 1 or 2 rune chants, which is fine in limited, but it's not a majestic. And in constructed, it's also not a majestic, so it's like a C.
Yeah,
it pairs very well with Fertile Ground.
It does pair very well with, you're right.
Or Harvest Season Red makes this rate pretty fine. Right? If you have a 1 card hand, if one turn you block heavy and play Harvest Season, cover Harvest Season later, but it's an aura that your next turn will give you 3 life. So if you start your turn gaining 3 and then play Thistlebloom Life, gain a 4th point of life, and make 5 rune chants if your hero ability is activated, then you've got a card. But this one, Germinate can carry you to a win with resources. Thistlebloom Life, much more synergy dependent for you to get good value out of it.
It's a puzzle piece. You need other pieces with it.
Yep. Absolutely. Not bomb status.
There's just easier hoops to jump through in this set.
Right. Arcane Seed's Life.
It's like Arcane Seed's Life.
Which, yeah, so Thistlebloom, may be a C plus at best. Arcane Seed's Life, we all gave a resounding A. It's a 3-block. It's a non-attack action. It's fine. It's a head jab's worth of value when you play it without your hero ability. It's a 0 for 5 when your hero ability is turned on. It just checks every box that Florian is looking to check. I don't know that. Oh, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. I think this is the best meld card in the set.
I agree. I think I agree. It's tough to beat 0 cost on something like this.
Alice might fight me on Rampant Growth, but you need to do a lot of work to make Rampant Growth good. And Arcane Seeds is just always really good.
Yeah.
I agree. It's always good. I will talk about other meld cards when we get there.
All right. Next up, moving into the Lightning Runeblade territory, we have Arc Lightning, which is the Aurora specialization. It is a 2-block Lightning Runeblade action, costs 0, pitches for 2. It says, whenever you go again this turn, deal 1 arcane damage to any target. The next action card you play this turn gets Go Again, and Arc Lightning itself has Go Again. So, fail state of this card is a 0 for 1 point of arcane. The more likely ceiling is this gives you probably 3 to 5 points of arcane and an extra action point because the next thing you do also gets Go Again from this. It's a lightning card, so it turns Starfall's Go Again on, so it fits really smoothly into everything Aurora is trying to do. And yeah, Arc Lightning very frequently is going to be worth 4 or 5 points of damage, not to mention the value of the action point you got in the first place.
I think if you draft this deck properly, it's very easy to get 6 points, maybe even 7 out of it. Because once you see Arc Lightning, you immediately say, I'm taking the Runeblade chest and the Runeblade gloves as soon as I see them, because those are 2 free arcane damage on your Arc Lightning turn. Starfall is a free point of damage on your Arc Lightning turn. It's very easy to make Arc Lightning a 0 for 6 arcane, which no one is prepared for against Aurora. Aurora deals very little arcane, typically. This is, I think, the second best card in the set. And Alex, giving it a B. Have you played against this card, Alex?
No, I haven't.
It's. I think once that happens, you will change your mind. It is a nightmare to see it played against you.
Yeah, I think it's. I mean, I think it's better than Arcane Seed's Life, which we also just gave A's
Yeah.
to. Like, I think I would lean towards this being a better card overall. Definitely bomb status. Uh,
Not bomb status.
with bomb
Vaporize.
status. Thumbs
Yeah,
down, bomb status.
Vaporize Shock is a Runeblade instant, lightning instant, 0 cost meld. Vaporize says destroy an aura permanent with cost X or less and or up to X aura tokens, where X is the total arcane damage you've dealt to opposing heroes this turn. And Shock deals 1 arcane damage to any target. It's the opposite of Life. Life goes up, Shock goes down. This card can be okay against Florian if you like eat an embodiment of Earth or some rune chants. I wouldn't put this in most Aurora decks. It's not very good.
Agreed. Not worth.
Yep.
Actually, it probably makes my Aurora deck just because of Shock, which can surprise kill your opponent on their turn, and that comes up surprisingly often. But that's about it.
Yeah, 1-to-1 shock versus gain 1 life battles happens surprisingly frequently. All right. Aurora staple, burn up shock. Burn up is the next time an attack you control hits this turn, deal 4 damage to an opposing hero. Sorry, it's
To
small tiny
them,
text. To them. Sorry. Yep. Sideways cards, super fun. So it's basically like the old electrify on hit, except it's worth 4 damage instead of 3. But it's stapled onto a shock, so it's another 0 for 1 point of arcane. So if you hit with an attack on the turn you play this card has been a 0 for 5 value for you. The burn up side is a Runeblade action, the shock is a lightning instant. And as long as you play the shock half when you play this card, you will turn on Starfall, which again, Starfall can threaten this on hit, which is very important. Yeah, we gave this one a resounding A, much like Arcane Seed's Life. It's very solid. This one's a rare, whereas, the last Vaporized one was a majestic. Burn Up Shock is a rare. But yeah, just another cornerstone synergy piece.
0 for 5s are good.
0 for 5s are good, confirmed. All right, that brings us to Alex's favorite. Heartbeat of Candlehold.
Yeah, Heartbeat of Candlehold. Blue 1 cost Earth Wizard action. Blocks 3, it's a verdant spec. Gain 1, gain 1, gain 1, go again. Which sounds fine until you remember that verdance triggers on each unique instance of life gain. So this is gain 1, gain 1, gain 1, deal 1, deal 1, deal 1. Assuming that you have verdance online. Luckily it's a blue, so you can just pitch it until she is. It's no Germinate, and it's no Arc Lightning, but it's pretty good.
Yeah, it's definitely, I don't know, it's probably just the best blue that you could ask for in a Verdance deck,
Yeah.
I'd imagine.
Yeah, a 1 for 6 with go again.
That's not bad. Well, when you put it that way.
I'm a fan of that, and it's a blue, and it's a block 3, and it's an Earth card, and it's a non-attack action.
Just checks every
Okay,
box.
so it does everything you want.
It does everything that you're looking for.
Verdance needs more cards like that.
Yeah. Definitely bomb status. slightly smaller bomb than our previous bomb Majestics, but still qualifies. Um, then our Earth Wizard split card Majestic, Rampant Growth Life. You might have seen this card infamously making the rounds, whether it is from CC or LL Verdance combo. Um, but Rampant Growth says uh, amp X, where X is the total life you've gained this turn, and life is gain 1 life. Both halves are instant. It's a wizard instant and an earth instant, and both halves cost 0 to use. Um, so, the power here is trying to line up other sources of life gain with this card to amp for, you know, 4 or 5 or, sometimes 13. In constructed, we're looking at, more like amping like 20. Uh, but, really juicing one massive spell. I think I took 13 arcane in the calling out of nowhere.
Sounds
That
about right.
Yeah, they just like 2 yellow fertile grounds into this or something. It was just nasty. I was like safe. I'm like, all right, I should be safe from 9. Nope, helplessly dead on the spot. Uh, the synergy is here with this card. It doesn't block, which is rough, but it can really just take a game right out from an opponent if you can set it up correctly.
That's pretty
You,
good.
yeah, I do really like this card. Um, Probably more than I should, but I don't know if I have played a Rosetta Limited game that hasn't gone to second cycle. So
Mhm.
there was a draft where I got past this, and then my priorities were get a red fertile ground, and then that's how I won all of my games was stacking them together, so that I was able to do just like Kevin said, like 9 to 13 arcane damage, which in this in this format is death.
Mhm.
So as long as you can play out the game and survive to that point, which Verdance can do pretty well with all the non-attack actions blocked for 3 or 4, and then all the life gain as well. Um, it's a great combo finisher, but it being a combo means that it's a little bit harder to set up than just like playing your Rune Blade 0 for 5s. You need puzzle pieces with it.
So next up, we have the uh, Earth Wizard Meld card. We've had 2 0 for 5s in a row at the rare slot. We're definitely getting a 0 for 5 here, right?
What you're
No,
getting is some evasion.
Yeah, so not quite. Pulsing Aether Life is a 1 cost meld card. So if you want the life side, which is an instant that gains 1, you have to pay a resource for it. And the Pulsing Aether side is a wizard action that says deal 4 arcane damage to any target, which also costs 1 resource. Pulsing Aether is a fine spell by itself. Importantly, this is an earth action for decompose purposes. You will play this in every Verdance deck, but it's not exciting in a lot of the ways that the other meld cards were. Importantly, if you have Verdance ability online, life will ping for 1, so you still are kind of like getting a 2-card 6 there. But 2-card 6 is it's no 1-card 5. It's like a B. It's like a B. You're gonna
You
play it
get
in
B,
every
B
Verdance deck.
plus, and A on our ratings. So
Yeah,
clearly, my B plus is accurate as I picked the middle of the two. It's very good. I don't know that it's pack one, pick one instantly puts you on a hero level.
absolutely not. Yeah, I'm taking any decomposed card over this. Pack one, pick one.
see, I did pack one pick one this last week. I didn't end up on Verdance because I got pushed in another direction. But if I had been Verdance, like this is a card that I want. It's kind of like, other than not being a blue, it's kind of like Heartbeat to me, where it's just everything that I'm looking for: life
Mhm.
gain and arcane damage and an Earth card and block 3.
Well, when you put it like that,
It is good. It's absolutely good. It's better
yeah.
than most cards in the set, but not all. Uh, but speaking of checking a lot of boxes that you want to check for a given hero, got Sigil of Brilliance. It's a lightning wizard instant aura. It is the Acilio specialization. It is a majestic. Pitches for 2, costs 0, but it's an instant. It says, at the beginning of your action phase, destroy this. When this leaves the arena, draw a card. So, we read Volzar earlier, and Volzar cares about playing lightning cards on a turn to amp for that turn. Volzar also kindly reduces its own cost if you have a card with Sigil in the name in the arena. So Sigil of Brilliance is both of those things. It's phenomenal. It's quite possibly the best card in the constructed version of this deck, and I would imagine it holds true in limited as well. Drawing cards is always going to be powerful. Um, and yeah, it's just similar to most of these meld cards. It checks every box you want checked for the hero. Um, it's simple and can look unassuming, but can set up some really gross things out of Acilio.
Yeah, I don't think we're fighting each other to say that this is an A.
Yeah.
I
You
don't know that I would pack one pick one it over a lot of strong, more generic cards, but it's definitely like very, very good.
Yeah,
you can kind of
oh good.
you can kind of imagine it saying, um, play this, gain a resource, deal an arcane damage, and draw a card next turn.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And there are other, we'll touch on the specific cards later. There are other specific card synergies that are capable of bouncing your own auras as well. And
Mhm.
they care about when you play instants and having auras in play that you can potentially return to your hand. And Sigil notably doesn't need to be destroyed to get the draw card. It just needs to leave the arena. So if you can line it up with some of those bounce effects, you can get multiple card draws from your Sigil of Brilliance, which is just great value.
Brilliant.
It's brilliant indeed. I
Boo.
don't think so. If you're predisposed at all to wanting to play Acilio, you're stoked to pack one pick one this card and just let it ride. I'd imagine, but I don't know, the no block aspect. I'm sure will scare a lot of people away from playing Acilio just in general.
Yeah. Speaking of no blocks, a significantly worse card. Null Shock is the majestic lightning wizard meld card. Both sides cost 1. Null is a wizard instant that says if target instant card has cost less than the total arcane damage you've dealt to opposing heroes this turn, negate it. It does not resolve. And Shock says deal 1 arcane damage to any target. So the joke here is that you're supposed to pitch a blue to play both sides of Null Shock and amp it with Volzar, because Volzar sees that you have played Shock, which is a lightning card, and will amp Shock to 2, and then Null will counter, it will negate an instant that your opponent is playing, like Arcane Seed's Life or Burn Up Shock. And importantly, if you negate the instant half of a meld card, both halves go away. You don't just get half of the card; they both go away. Um,
Sounds like a
Unfortunate.
reason to maybe not gain life with your Arcane Seeds life. If you're like, oh, I
So,
know I passed one of these in the draft and I
yes,
happen to be paired into the Acilio of this pod,
yes,
maybe I should play around this.
Not-
absolutely
Notably, the go again does not resolve if it counters a
right.
card.
You're
So
done. Yeah.
your turn is
You
over.
might just have to settle for a
Um,
0 for 4 instead of a 0 for 5.
the issue is if you don't have an instant to negate, it's like a shock, which you have
A
better
1
things to be
cost
doing.
shock too.
A one cost shock, yeah. You're gonna put this in your Acilio decks just because it can kill your opponent on their turn, but it's not a bomb by any means. And you're gonna see this card passed a lot in draft, as it's like a solid 5th or 6th pick Acilio card.
Yeah, fair. Now, back to our cycle of mostly bomb meld rares. We've got Comet Storm Shock, which is wizard action on one half, lightning instant on the other half. Comet Storm is deal 5 arcane damage to any target. Shock is deal 1 arcane damage to any target. The cost on this card is 2, so to get both halves played, you have to pitch 4 resources for it. But the power here is probably more in the versatility than the sort of the full package of damage.
This one's really good. Tall Arcane is just good in a format where Brush Off exists. Which is the nicest thing I'm going to say about Brush Off all video.
I've got there's one other card that I'm like, Brush Off's really one red Brush Off is really good because this card exists, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah, I think Comet Storm is just really great. I would love to take it most opportunities I see it. I definitely think it is a reason to draft a Cilio. But it's not like, it's good. there are bombs I would take over it, but it's solid. It's like B plus range, and I'm gonna revise my grade.
Welcome to the B plus gang. Alex rated this bad boy an A. Which is fair. It's potent, it's good, it checks a lot of boxes, and it's another 3-block in an Acilio deck, which is not going to be particularly good at blocking. So there's real value there too. All right.
Okay, that was a really dense beginning section of all of the dual element cards. It gets a little bit easier. We're going to move into Earth now. Just Earth. We'll have a few Majestics and then mostly commons and rares to talk about. First off, the 2 best equipment in the set, though, at common. Helm of Lignum Vitae. Earth equipment head, 1-block Blade Break, but if there are 4 or more Earth cards in your Banished Zone, that's just +1 defense. Now you might think, oh, I want to block 2 with this helmet. That is not the primary mode or use case for this. What this primarily does is it defends 1, and it puts an Earth card in your graveyard to decompose so that you can get your hero online. And it is so good for that purpose.
Yeah, I think Helm of Lignum Vitae is probably the most important single card I want if I'm running a gauntlet of lightning heroes in particular. Or if I'm playing, I don't know, a bunch of Florians or Florian mirrors potentially. The strategy I alluded to earlier where it's like mono arcane, you're like, oh, I spent a really high draft pick on this helmet that has 0 text in this matchup is kind of painful, but yeah, it definitely it's a decompose tool. Excuse me. It's primarily a decompose tool for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, A's across the board.
Yep.
A's across the board.
Absolutely.
Very, very happy to first pick this card.
Yeah, the equipment in this set in general is potent enough to be, or excuse me, at least the good equipment. There's a whole cycle later on that are the runaways equivalent for every slot in the generic sections, but the class and talent equipment for the most part. There's probably 2 that lag pretty far behind the rest in terms of potency, but both of the Earth ones and most of the class and talented equipments are very premium because you're not getting inundated with equipment like you were in heavy hitters. Yeah, Helm of Lignum Vitae, absolutely pack 1, pick 1able in my book. And something, before we go to the next Earth equipment that we neglected to touch on, and definitely should have been in our initial format notes.
What did I miss?
No, it's not you. It's something that I forgot about too.
Oh, the Sanctuary.
Sanctuary of Aria is the Rosetta macro. It's a new card type. It's effectively, it's not technically a token. It's just a thing that just starts in play and exists. And it has the same text as
Helios Miter.
Helios Miter.
It's Helios Miter, but you don't need an equipment slot.
Absolutely. Helios Miter that doesn't take an equipment slot. And so Sanctuary says, instant, pay 2 resources, prevent the next 1 damage that will be dealt to you this turn by a source of your choice. Destroy this at the beginning of the end phase. So, If you have a hand of 12 resources, this can stop 6 damage. It can stop arcane. It can stop untyped whatever type of damage.
Yeah.
But you only get it for one turn out of the game. So finding your moment to use this appropriately is very important. Um, and there's a lot of different levels to when it makes sense to use it or when you might need to use it. Um, because level 0 is, oh, my opponent's trying to deal arcane damage to me on turn 0 that I can't otherwise block. Pitch to Sanctuary. That's all well and good sometimes, but there are other cards in the set with more potent on arcane damage dealt abilities that you might be better off saving it, taking the damage now and saving it for later to stop, a meet and greet or a perennial Aether Bloom, which is a zap variant that surges to go back into your deck and occasionally lets Verdance pretend like she has a weapon. So,
Yeah, I think the only other like specific interaction with Sanctuary to note is it is an activated ability. It is not a replacement effect like Arcane Barrier. So your opponent can respond to your Sanctuary, and you have to declare how many times you're activating it, and then they get to see if they want to respond. And that's relevant for Arcane Twining and Photon Splicing, commons that we'll get to later that discard to amp. So if you have a surge effect coming, your opponent activates Sanctuary just enough times to stop the surge, and then you amp by 1 as an instant, you're putting them in a sticky situation where they have to activate Sanctuary again to continue to dodge the surge. And if it was Arcane Barrier, your opponent wouldn't get the opportunity to do that because they are choosing how much to prevent as the layer is already resolving and there's no more instant windows.
Wizards.
Wizard stuff.
Wizards.
Not wizard stuff. Well grounded. Earth equipment, legs. 0 defense value, but instant, destroy this, prevent the next 2 damage that will be dealt to you this turn. Activate this only if there are 4 or more Earth cards in your banished zone. So worth noting, this is 4 cards in banished, which means in CC it doesn't change just because you're Florian and Florian needs to get to 8 in CC. It's always 4 with this card. Well grounded is right up there with Helm of Lignum Vitae. Really high pick. It effectively reads gain 2 life for the most part. In particular, it's the good kind of Oldham reaction damage prevention, where if somebody hits you for 1 ping of arcane, it will consume 1 of the 2 points of prevention from well grounded, and the other point will just linger and float and be able to stop damage later.
It's really good. I don't think it's quite as good as Helm of Lignum Vitae because it doesn't help you get your game plan online. But it's still like a B plus, I think.
I have it as an A. I think if I had the choice between the two, I think I'd take well grounded.
Interesting.
Being able to block arcane after the sanctuary is gone, really good. Being able to block multiple breakpoints from Runeblade attacking for 4, go again, 4, go again, with a burn up shock, making sure that I don't take an extra 4 arcane damage. That is really good. And a lot of the just having it on the board and available means that the wizards have to play differently with their surge effects. There are some surge effects that give go again, and if as the wizard I know that my opponent has well grounded, I'm not able to just like amp that and play it out because I know that they're going to be able to prevent it. So I have to block more and like try to bait them into using it and like set up for later. So even just it being on the field makes wizards play differently.
Yeah, agreed. Like Helm of Lignum Vitae helps you do the broken earth thing really quickly and efficiently the most, but I think well grounded, for having the best chances to like 3-0 a pod, I think it is probably the most important equipment slot for pulling that off, I think. All right. Earth Majestics. We'll run through these quick. Felling of the
Yeah.
Crown.
Most of them are bombs. Felling of the Crown is a bomb.
Felling of the Crown, absolutely a bomb. It's a decompose card. Only the majestic decompose attacks block 3. All the commons and rares are only 2 blocks. But Felling of the Crown is great. It's great and constructed. It's nearly as good here. Um, yeah, card's just great. You want to take cards out of your opponent's hand, and it will do that and play to every other strength of your game plan, and it's 3 block, so it's great.
Similarly, Plow Under or Command in Compost, as Cred from O3 Dropcast has dubbed it. Also great. You're just going to take this. You're also going to rare draft this. Here's like a $12 card.
Try 20.
Is Plow Under 20?
Yeah.
Oh my god! I'm glad I bought mine. Yeah, it's a 2 for 6 that bottoms your arsenal, your opponent's arsenal, uninteractively, which is really good. Take this card. It's also
One
an
thing
Earth 3 block.
One thing to note for both Felling of the Crown and Plow Under is their symmetrical effects. So
Yeah, you will also bottom your arsenal.
yeah, Felling of the Crown, if you have a card in your hand, you'll have to put it on the bottom. And Plow Under, if you have a card in your arsenal, you have to put it on the bottom.
But only dependent on the decompose effect. There is a both. So Felling of the Crown is a 3-cost 4 base power attack. Plow Under is a 2 for 2, but both of them have the effect of if there's 4 or more Earth cards in your banish zone, this gets +4. So you can just run out a 2 for 6 without decomposing if your opponent doesn't have an arsenal and you do, and you want to keep it.
That's
Or
true.
so there's modularity there too that, in addition to everything else, just adds to the strength of both of those cards. Both bomb status, both pack 1 pickable, absolutely, and rare draftable, like Rhea said.
Speaking of bomb status, my
Channel
favorite card from
Broccoli.
the world premiere, Channel Broccoli. Channel the Millennium Tree, 3-cost Earth Action Aura, go again. It blocks 3, and it amps 3 once per turn. This is one of Verdance's best tools to counteract the abundant life gain in Earth Mirrors. And it's just really good. Arcane is nearly unblockable if you keep this alive for 2 turns. You have a Arcane 2-card 9, which is absurd to say. Just take this card. It's even good in Florian because it amps your rune chance.
Yeah, just solid all around. No notes, A's throughout. Next
Not
topic,
an A.
not an A. Earth's Embrace.
Yeah.
It's a blue Earth Action Aura, 2-block, costs 1. It says go again, and then at the beginning of your end phase, create an embodiment of Earth token. Then, if you haven't banished an Earth card this turn, destroy this. Decomposing is way too inconsistent in limited for this to, with any frequency, threaten more than a single, or more than maybe 2. You could line this up with a decompose card and probably get 2 embodiments, but it's not trivial to do. So if you need an
And
Earth 2 block, go for it. But
also spending your card for 2 embodiments is not good either.
also very true. Yeah,
Seeds of Tomorrow.
We've got D's across the board on that one.
Yeah, D's across the board. Not a D. Seeds of Tomorrow is a blue earth instant. As an additional cost, you must put your arsenal on the bottom of your deck. And you need to do that with a card. You can't have an empty arsenal and play this. But it says prevent the next 5 damage that you would be dealt this turn. And that's across any number of sources, which means this is a way to block 5 rune chance. Or it's a way to block 4 rune chance and a point of physical, etc., etc. Very flexible, and just very strong in that flexibility. This will get you out of binds when Florian makes 10 rune chance. And it's like, I have 1 out in my deck, I need to draw Seeds of Tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's not like crazy high ceiling, but it's a solid B.
Yeah, Justin had a game in the calling where he had set up a huge rune chant stack, and I think was like gonna do meet and greet into sword or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the only possible combination of cards were like using the boots and Seeds of Tomorrow, like in conjunction with other and they were able to fully block out this turn that otherwise should have been absurd. But yeah, Seeds of Tomorrow is very potent.
Yeah.
It's good, and if it's in your deck, just make sure you prioritize having an arsenal so that when you draw it, you have the opportunity to play it.
For sure. All right, so that's the Earth Majestics. Moving into the more bread and butter territory for the set. This card we saw first from the was this skirmish kit promo? I think.
Skirmish season, yeah.
Yeah, skirmish season promo. Earth Form, which is no, not a Raging Onslaught. What's the 2 cost version of that?
No, this is a 3 cost.
Or sorry,
Earthform is
a
a
two
3 for
block
7.
version of it. Isn't there a generic?
Oh.
Yeah.
There isn't a generic version of that.
Okay. Well, Earth Form is one of your bread and butter 3 for 7s. It's an Earth attack. It blocks 2. Comes in all 3 colors, and then on hit, create an embodiment of Earth token. 3 for 7, always going to be solid. This can threaten to be much more like a 3 for 8, 9, 10, depending on if it hits, depending on how many embodiments your hit turns into, and how many non-attack actions you block with on the following turn. If Florian's activated and you draw 2 non-attack actions on your next turn, this sure looks like a 3 for 11 to me.
Yeah, it's very good. B plus range?
Yeah, definitely. It's just a great value attack. No, nothing really special about it.
Very good Pad 1 Pick 1, and I know this is high on Alex's list for like constructed playable cards in the set.
I do really like Earth Form. It's the floor being a 3 for 7 for limited is great, and the ceiling being a 3 for 11, like Kevin said. But then in constructed, when you get to actually build your deck around having more non-attacks, to make sure that if you have an embodiment, you get value out of it, it just becomes better. Also, for the commons and rares, we're not going to go through every color.
Yeah.
Talk about it. So Earthform just in general is a B, and if there's a card that is a specific color that we're gonna call out, then we'll call it out. But
Yep.
The other Earth rare decompose, or the first rare decompose is Summer's Fall. It's a 2-cost, 6-power Earth action attack. Blocks 2 at red. Attacks for 5 and 4 at yellow and blue. Decompose. When this attacks, you may banish 2 Earth cards and an action card from your graveyard. All Decompose has that 2 Earth cards, 1 action card text. So just Decompose. Put up to 1 target aura on the bottom of its owner's deck. If it's a token, it ceases to exist. So there's so many tokens in this set. The floor on this is like 2 for 6, destroy a rune chant. The ceiling is like 2 for 6, destroy an embodiment of lightning, ruin Aurora's turn. And it's a very good card.
Very solid. I mean, it's a fine rate in general. It says decompose, which is incredibly important text in the set. The aura text can be huge, so you can also put one of your own auras back in your deck if it's early game and you have a Malefic incantation that's made a couple rune chants. You can put your own Malefic incantation back into your deck for second cycle, by which point you would hope that Florian is activated, assuming that's who you're playing. So there's a lot of upside to this card, a lot of play to it. Yeah, we've got B and B plus.
Also, like B pluses across
very
the board.
solid. Yeah,
it'll just fit in your deck.
Yeah, absolutely. Then we move to the one decompose card that isn't an attack action, which is Rootbound Carapace, which is an Earth defense reaction with a base defense of 3, 2, or 1, depending on the color. Costs 0 to play, and then decomposes for +1 defense. So the red one is going to be a 0 for 4 defense react that will allow you to decompose. This card letting you decompose without eating up an action point is huge. It's why it's seeing a pretty good amount of play in the constructed Florian decks as well, in generally both red and yellow even. You just getting decompose online sends your deck into a whole other gear. And a 0 for 4 defensively in the set is pretty unique, I think, as far as I can recall.
Yeah. Notably a bit awkward versus the wizards, because a good wizard deck will just not attack an Earth hero so that they have a hard time decomposing. And this card does nothing if you are not being attacked.
Too true.
But otherwise, I think it's the best non-majestic decomposed card in the set. and I think our grades reflect that. We've given it A's or A minuses.
Yeah, just solid, great rate, great synergy. This next one,
Sigil,
it's a bit of
yeah.
filler.
Last Earth Rare, Sigil of Sanctuary, they just really committed to there needs to be a bunch of sigils in this set. It's a blue Earth instant aura, Arcane Shelter 1, which is if you would be dealt arcane damage, destroy this and prevent one of that damage. That's mandatory, it's not optional like Spell Void. When this leaves the arena, create an embodiment of Earth token. Arcane Shelter is fine. You're going to play this sometimes because it's an Earth blue, and that's about it. It's not a particularly good card, and it's like a C or a D.
Yeah, it's fine. You're not clamoring for it. Sometimes you put it in your deck if you have to, or if it's a, you know, if you know your opponent is about to bust out the all arcane deck, and you're like, well, I guess I should side out this Rootbound Carapace because they're never going to attack me. Go for it.
Mm.
But nothing too
I
crazy to write home about.
I do like it specifically in flurrying quite a bit. I was able to play it into oh goodness, what's that? Splintering Deadwood,
Oh.
which we'll talk about later. But it lets you destroy an aura you control to turn it into a rune chant. So being able to destroy this and make it into a rune chant, preferably two, assuming that Florian is online, and then it will then create two embodiments of Earth at that same moment because it is leaving the arena. So trade Sigil of Sanctuary for two rune chants and two embodiments of Earth. And then if Sigil of Deadwood hits, you can turn one of those embodiments of Earth into two more rune chants.
It's my favorite play in the whole set.
Yeah.
Right
Yeah,
there.
that card's pretty ridiculous.
It's pretty sweet.
Plus, then it's an Earth card for that you can decompose. So I do
Yep.
like it in
True. True.
Florian.
True.
Um, Next up, returning Starvo All Star. This card used to be banned. Autumn's Touch. It is an Earth action attack, 3 for 7. It blocks 3. There's no other text, and you are playing as many copies of this as you can in any Earth hero.
Yep. 3 black, great. Attack rate, very solid. It says Earth. Draft
Says
them, they're
Earth.
solid.
B.
Next,
Yeah, solid B across the board.
Next.
Blossoming Decay. This one is another decompose attack action. It's a 2 for 5, blocks 2, decomposes, and if you do decompose, you gain 1 life. So it can be a different shaped 2 for 6. If you are Verdance, this can be a 2 for 7 because that ping of the life gain can also be a ping of Arcane. And notably, the timing with when decomposed cards get to banish and when you gain the life and trigger it, if you hit your threshold of 4 with Blossoming Decay, you'll get the ping immediately.
Yeah, if it is your second decompose, you still get the ping. It's fine. If your deck is blue light, it's a much safer pick over the next card, which costs 3. I think it is my second favorite common decompose, which there's only 2 common decompose. But it's perfectly serviceable card. You're gonna play it. You're gonna take it in any color, just because decompose is that important, and it's not embarrassing.
Yeah, fair. Just a solid cog piece, and yeah, it says decompose, and you gotta have
We
it.
we have it at like C or B. It's a staple card in your deck,
Yeah,
but
I
it's
do
not.
think the fact that it gains you the point of life, and we've established that gaining like the random
hmm,
extra life gain is, while
worth
not
more than one, would
necessarily
you say?
worth more than 1 point of value in the strictest terms, like I'd rather swing a blossoming decay than a vanilla like 6 power attack.
Mm. Well, I will fight that the next card is the better common decompose. What does Cadaver's Tilling do?
It attacks for 8. It's a
Yeah, it does.
it's a 3 for 6, 2 block earth attack action, decomposes to get +2 power. Um, if you're coming in with a red cadaver stilling is 3 for 8, you're having a ball. That's great.
Yeah.
Um,
And here, mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, so I gave this card a B, and here is where I do want to make a color note. If you told me I could only have blue Cadaverous Tilling, like if I could only have blue Decomposes, I would want them all to be Cadaverous Tillings. Because early game, it is a fine play. It's a 2-card 6, it decomposes, which like is an okay rate. Late game, it's a blue Earth card. And that's like fine in both spots that you need it to be. So like I especially like the blue to just fill out your blue base and be decomposed and still leave you room for like powerful reds for the late game.
Yeah,
But
agreed.
yeah, this card's fantastic.
And yeah, Cadaverous Tilling, I think it's my pick for the best yellow card in the set of like
Agreed.
commons and
Yeah.
rares. It's
Yeah.
it's a yellow that's basically got a red rate and decomposes. So
Mhm.
nothing wrong with running a couple of those if they come to you. Next, we've got everybody's favorite, Fruits of the
Yum yum.
Forest.
Yum yum.
We've got it's another 3 for 7. In red, yellow, blue goes down to 5. 2 block and has the ability instant discard this, gain 2 life.
Which is gain 2, deal 1 in Verdance. This also can just dump itself in the graveyard for decomposes, like if you need to have an extra Earth card for your Rootbound Carapace, or if you just don't have a spare action point and you need to decompose your Cadaverous Tilling. And it's also just a 3 for 7. Card's great.
Yeah.
And the life gain is functional block arcane. Card is fantastic.
Yep. Absolutely. No notes. I I'd be
Uh,
there is an amount of Fruits of the Forest that's probably too many, but that number is probably like higher than 5. So
yeah.
yeah, like
Uh,
taking a bunch of Fruits of the Forest is generally going to be great.
I initially rated this C plus. I think y'all are closer to the mark at B minus or A. A is a little high. B minus sounds about right.
Alex
I mean,
values
I'm
his
just
versatility above all else.
yeah. The cards that do everything that I want, um, are the cards that I rate A, and this card does everything that I want other than block 3.
Hmm.
So the
Fair
fact
enough.
that it's a common, it's an Earth card, it's a 3 for 7, it's a discard to gain health to not die to arcane, fills your graveyard when you don't have an extra action point.
Yeah,
Check a lot of boxes except for block 3, but
True.
can't ask
kind of
everything from a common.
kind of crazy that we're going from one of the best Earth commons in the set to the worst Earth common in the set.
Hey, Strength of 4 Seasons and its gorgeous, cool-looking art is tragically a bit underpowered. It can be good. Don't get me wrong, a 2 for 8 is great, but Strength of 4 Seasons is a 2 for base of 4 power, 2 block Earth attack action. If there are 4 or more Earth cards in your banish zone, this gets +4. Um, it's fine. It's serviceable. You're not super excited to take it, but you'll good chance you end up with 1 or 2 in a lot of Earth decks if Earth's on the overdrafted side. Um, the blue is fine of this. It ends up in that it's not you're not excited about it, but on second cycle it's going to be a 2 for 6 in blue.
The blue is fine. I have drafted the set 3 times. I have drafted Earth 3 times. Strength of Season has yet to go in any of my decks, and I would prefer to keep it that way. I think
I
this card
think
is terrible.
I don't think it's terrible. I think that by the nature of all of the Earth heroes, which presumably in a draft would be 4 of them, wanting the decompose cards, if your deck has a ton of decomposed cards in it and you are online super quick, this is a fantastic card. 2 card, 2 cost 8 power attack is fantastic. But the trouble is it doesn't decompose, so it doesn't get you any closer to your condition. So like Kevin's deck that we were talking about earlier, if you only have 3 decomposes in your whole deck, you're gonna probably draw the Strength of 4 Seasons while it's a 2 for 4, which is not a card that I want to be playing. I want to play 2 for 8. So if you have a ton of decomposed cards, I think the pick of Strength of the 4 Seasons goes up significantly. But if not, then you probably just take the blue one, knowing that you're gonna pitch it first cycle, have your hero ability be on by the time you get back to it.
Also, can I
Alex just said
ruin?
Strength of the Four Seasons, and now it just made me think that I really want a stupid altar of this card with Rudy Giuliani in front of the Four Seasons Landscaping Company.
Can I ruin the art on this card for y'all? By the way,
Do it.
Is it Rudy Giuliani?
the seasons are out of order. It's autumn, summer, winter, spring, which is not in order. And even if you switch spring and summer, which is plausible, autumn, spring, winter, summer, the seasons are not in order, and it bothers me immensely.
Tragic.
It's only because you live in Ohio.
That's sometimes they
Not for
don't come in
long.
order like that. That's fair. That's fair. All right, let's move to a much more interesting card to talk about. I think Harvest Season. It's a 1-cost Earth action aura, 2-block, has go again, and at the beginning of your action phase, destroy this, then gain 3 life. So this is 1-cost Sigil of Solace on a time delay. Sometimes that time delay can potentially be useful if you know what your second cycle looks like, and you're like, oh, remember that crazy Majestic that relies on gaining a chunk of life to make a bunch of rune chants? You could line up a Harvest Season play, and then know you're going to draw into that and have a really great 1-card play the following turn. It's life gain, so this is good into the All Arcane decks. It's an aura, so it turns on Rotwood Reaper's full power, so you could have a 2-card 7-value turn, Rotwood Reaper. And the more you attack with a sword in an Earth Mirror, the more equity you get in the fatigue game potentially, because you're not strictly speaking, expending cards from deck to swing the sword. This card's grown on me specifically because of the mono arcane decks in the format.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's good. That was a lot of good things about it. It's also just a fine card. It's a C.
Yep.
Like you're gonna have some Harvest Seasons in your deck. It's not exciting, but it's good.
Yeah,
Strength
definitely.
of Four Seasons is a D bordering on F, by the way.
Yeah. Harvest Season substantially better than our next card, which is Strong Yield, which is the exact same templating, exact same cost structure, but at the beginning of your action phase, destroy this, then your next attack this turn gets +3 damage. This is not AMP 3, which means it's not great. Just spending a whole card for a slow 3 damage is not what this format is about.
Especially because
on a time delay. No thanks.
Yeah, because you don't know what your next hand is going to be unless you pitch stacked it. So there's a lot of times when your strong yield cracks and it's like sword for 5. So this was like a 2-card 5.
Yeah,
not where you want to be.
Yeah, if it like broke itself and gave you an embodiment of Earth or something, we could talk, because then you know that it's going to buff the sword the following turn, which is important. But no, this is I would definitely prefer to not have any of these in my draft decks.
I will say the upside to these are if your deck is making a lot of embodiments of Earth, they're the only common non-attack actions that are Earth. So instead of blocking 2, they become block 3s if you have an embodiment, or if you're Florian and you have 2 embodiments, then they become block 4s, which are significant. But I'm not sure there's enough ways to make embodiments of Earth consistently to make that a real deck archetype.
And I think the real problem is both of the classes have much better 3-block options, right? The Wizard has like 8 different 3-block non-attack actions to choose from, and even Runeblade has Oath of the Arknight at a minimum. There's just, Condemned to Slaughter is a rare, but there's a handful of 3-block non-attack action options that you just want over this basically all the time.
An Earth card I'm happy with any color in my deck is Fertile Ground, which wins the award for Most Improved from Spoiler Season to now. I thought this card was terrible when I first read it, and it's great. At red, it is a 2-cost Earth instant. It says gain 2 life. If there are 4 or more Earth cards in your banish zone, instead gain 5 life. And importantly, the part that scales on this in color is the 4 or more instead gain. So it goes 5, 4, 3. But any color before you hit 4 Earth cards and banished, they all gain you 2 life. Spending 1 card from deck to gain 5 life in a format with arcane damage that is otherwise unblockable, extremely strong. Cannot be understated how good that is.
Yeah,
And this card's fantastic.
it's every color of this has risen in my
Mm-hmm.
estimation. Partially because my initial like sealed decks at the world premiere, I had like blues of this repeatedly, and I'm like, it's an earth blue. I guess I gotta play it, and even the blue being a gain three, like a 2 cost gain 3, but even that can be very relevant. And yeah, don't sleep on fertile ground.
So you're saying the card that strictly gains life? Real good. Okay.
I don't know that
Yeah,
it's not better than cadaverous tilling, but it's really
it's
good.
not better than Cadaver's Tilling, but it's really good.
Yeah, and honestly,
Um,
even having a few fertile grounds and then hitting them in your opener if you're not going first too, like you want the full value, but if you can sort of freebie gain 2 life and put an earth card in for an early decompose, even that can have enough value to be worth it.
and then the last Earth Common, a card that is pretty terrible unless you have really strong Earth synergies. Sigil of Earth is a blue Earth action aura 2 block, 0 cost. Go again. At the beginning of your action phase, destroy this. When this leaves the arena, create an embodiment of Earth token. So basically, this card is terrible unless you do the things that Alex was talking about earlier, where you can sacrifice it to other effects for benefits. And that's essentially the only time you want to be playing with it. Otherwise, it is a Earth Blue card that blocks 2, which sometimes is enough to make your deck, but it's not good. It's like a D. It's like a D.
Yeah, it's my favorite like bad earth blue, I guess, when you just need resource cards. Like I know there's better things, but at the same time I'm sure that probably also is just because of my Runeblade bias as well, which means that I'm more likely to have the cards that let me do gross things with Sigil of Earth. But one of my favorite bad card of the set.
Fair.
All right,
That's Earth.
that's Earth, and we're gonna go through these lightning cards lightning fast because we're at about 90 minutes, and we're still determined to break our record from the last
Oh
set.
my god.
All right,
Okay.
I don't think we're
it's all
I
right.
don't
No,
think
we
we're gonna
got
do it
this.
either.
We got
We
this.
got this. We got this.
Flash
Twinkle
of
toes,
brilliance.
baby.
No,
Oh,
flash of
said it. We're
brilliance.
on to it.
Off to a great start. Flash of brilliance. When this defends, you may discard a lightning card. If you do, return an aura you control to its owner's hand. It's a lightning equipment head, with 1 defense and blade break.
Yeah.
So 1 defense, you could potentially discard another crappy card to try and recycle a more valuable sigil that you or aura that you have in play. Probably a sigil. If you're playing Acilio, Sigil of Brilliance is a great target for this. In a
It, let's
decent number of games, it's a block
let's
one.
be real. It's Blade Break 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely
It's
one of the
no Helm of
lower.
Dignity.
Yeah, definitely one of the lower value uh, equipment pieces in the
Yeah.
set. Um, the next one I think is a bit stronger, and this is the card I alluded to earlier when I mentioned you love having the first red brush off in your deck with Twinkle Toes, which is a lightning equipment for the legs. Instant, destroy this. Prevent the next 2 damage that will be dealt to you this turn. Activate this only if you've played an instant card this turn. So, a lot of the instants in the set are more offensively oriented. Uh, Brush off, that is not the case, and so you don't necessarily want to play your offensive leaning instant to like during your opponent's turn when you're not getting value from it. So, the first brush off lets you pretend like you had a 1 card 5 block in your deck. The Twinkle Toes damage prevention is the good kind, whereas Brush Off is the bad kind. So you could cleanly block a 4 with Twinkle Toes and Brush Off and still float an extra point of prevention elsewhere. Um, both
I
of these are a little worse than their Earth counterparts, I think, in practice.
yeah.
if you're playing a lightning hero, you're gonna pick them. but they'll probably come around again, where the
Yeah,
Earth ones will not come around again.
agreed.
Card that will not come around again. Current Funnel is a fantastic majestic. It's a blue 2-power attack, and it essentially says double go again. And it blocks 3. You're just going to take this card when you see it. It's real good.
Yep. So if the last action card you play this turn was lightning, this and the next action you play this turn get go again. Solid role player. It's a blue block 3 that says lightning on it. If you see it, you take it because it's a really solid role player. This we
Uh,
had bees for, I think. Next up is eclectic magnetism. This is a 1 for 5, 3 block lightning attack action. This is better Vela Flash. It's a 1 for
it
5
is
lightning
better
card.
Velvet.
You don't have to fuse it, but when this attacks, you may play a non-attack action card. Okay, so sorry, it's not strictly better Vela Flash, because this one says when this attacks, you may
It's
play a
it's
non-attack action
better.
card. This chain link as though it were an instant.
It's better
Which
Vela
it,
Flash.
it is. It is better Vela Flash. You can play your 1 for 5 and instant speed in a burn up shock to give it fake go again and still get your 5 value. But yeah, it's just uh, very solid. And it's a 3 block, which is relatively rare in lightning cards. But this next one, also a 3 block, gone in a flash. I should have clicked to the next card immediately, so it would have been gone in a flash. That'd have been funny.
Ooh.
Uh, uh,
0 for 4 that sometimes draws a 0 for 4 on a flash is a very good card.
yeah, kind of cracked and constructed. The
But only
lightning
kind of.
heroes have a lot of instant synergies in this set. This is no exception. It says when this attacks, the next time you play an instant card this chain link, you may return this to its owner's hand. Do not play that particular instant before you have dealt your damage with Gone in a Flash, because you will miss your window to return it to your hand. It's a
We
0
don't
for 4
have
lightning card, which is great. Go ahead, Alex.
we don't have the time to explain all the rules interactions with Gone in a Flash.
There's too many rules
Go
interactions.
before you go to your ProQuest draft. Just go to the rules, like the release notes, and read
Yeah.
up on Gone in a Flash so that you're well aware.
Yeah.
There's a lot of weird things with it.
That said, this is a great card. It's an A. It's a bomb because it's a snatch that always draws a 0 for 4.
It's an endless arrow.
And it doesn't. It's an endless arrow exactly, and it doesn't have to hit. Speaking of hitting, Channel Lightning Valley, another bomb majestic. First time you deal damage to opposing hero each turn, draw a card, and it's an instant, so you can do it after they've declared 3 block on your 4-power attack. And it channels, so you can potentially draw 2 or even 3 cards off of this. Very good card. You're going to take it. You're going to take it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Better in
Only note
constructed than limited, but still solid here.
the only note is that it specifically says the first time you deal damage. So make
Mm-hmm.
sure you're playing it before you deal any damage.
Yeah, it
That's
does
a good
see
point.
backwards in time. It's not the first time after Channel Lightning Valley is in play. It's similar to Passing Mirage and other similarly templated effects.
And
You
then
can't get it to work with Gone in a Flash. It doesn't work the way you want it to. It never will.
it
Don't
doesn't
try
work the
it.
way you
It
want it
doesn't
to.
work the way you want it to.
Yeah. Um, and then everyone has to have some dud majestic. High voltage is a blue lightning instant 0 cost that just says amp 1. This card is okay in Acilio, and do not play it in Aurora. I mean, it's a lightning blue. You can play it in Aurora, but it's not good.
Yeah.
This is the most C majestic ever, which is really funny because majestics are either really good or really bad usually, and it's just like a C.
Very meh. Yeah, definitely more constructed than did card here, and definitely mono Acilio in my book.
Yeah, and Acilio basically says amp 2, which
Yep.
is really good.
That
Absolutely.
is really good.
Next up, moving into the rares, we've got a pretty good one, Blast to Oblivion. So, we saw a lot of 3 for 7s and pseudo 3 for 8s in Earth. We're going to see a lot of 0 for 4s and 1 for 5s in Lightning. So Blast to Oblivion is a Lightning 0 for 4 attack action, 2 block. It says when this attacks, the next time you play an instant card that's chain link, you may return target or a permanent with cost 1 or less you may return target aura permanent with cost 1 or less, or target aura token to its owner's hand. Um,
With
this,
that much text, it has to be good.
yeah, uh,
Turns out it
it
is.
is very good. This is a great combination with Sigil of Brilliance. It's great with a bunch of other instants that we have yet to look at in the Lightning Suite. You can bounce your own sigils for value to potentially replay them if that is good. You can also bounce opposing tokens, right? You can knock a rune chant off the board. You can take an embodiment of Earth out of the way so that pesky verdants can't block all your 0 for 4 breakpoints particularly well. Yeah, just a solid card. Definitely more Acilio leaning than Aurora, but it's tough to go wrong with a 0 for 4 lightning card in this set.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Uh,
got
Next
C
up, we
plus.
have the count. Yeah, it's very good.
Yeah.
It's good. Next up, we have the counterpart to Earth Form. Lightning Form is a 1 for 5, still blocks 2. When this hits, create an embodiment of Lightning token. Extremely good. It's close to a 1 for 5 go again. Not exactly, but close. And that's very, very strong. We have B's across the board. Kevin did B minus. You want to explain that minus, Kevin?
It's just fine. I think there's just other 1 for 4s that I'm more interested in the set.
Okay.
But yeah, it's good. And honestly, it doesn't even make a terrible like 2 card hand of lightning form, threatening an embodiment, and you get to make an embodiment regardless. And for the record, there is value to doing that because there are ways to kill your auras in this. So don't just have 2 resources floating for no reason if you can make a second embodiment of lightning. Redundancy can save you at times. So make 2 if you can.
And then maybe the weirdest card in the set, Electromagnetic Somersault, is our second to last lightning rare. I'm going to read the red version here because it's the only good color. Red 0-cost lightning instant. Choose up to 2 attack action cards with cost 0 or more on the active chain link. Return them to their owner's hand when the chain link resolves. So there's kind of 2 levels of play to this card. Level 1 is I have played a 0 for 4 attack. I would like to put that back in my hand. And so essentially, I'm going to play Somersault and trade it for my 0 for 4, like Lightning Surge from Arsenal that had Go Again. That's level 1. Level 2 is I blocked an attack with 2 3-block cards, and now I'm going to play Electromagnetic Somersault and put both of them back in my hand, and it's like my Somersault block 6. And that's level 2. That's like the big brain play with this card.
Yeah, I think we've got pretty solid B plus across the board here. It's very potent. Too many of them can be risky because these are still, like red non-block cards that aren't actually attacks and can't block themselves. But in a 2 of them in a lightning deck is probably a very good number to have for that effect.
They scale bad with color. The red one's really good. The yellow one is okay. The blue one, I don't think you ever want.
Terrible.
No, super bad. And then the last lightning rare is Sigil of Conductivity. It's a lightning instant aura, costs 0, pitches for blue, has Arcane Shelter 1, which is a must blow up Spell Void 1 effectively. And then when this leaves the arena, create an embodiment of lightning token. We've got C's across the board for this. It has a neat effect with Acilio that if he's not taking arcane damage, it just means Volzar is always free to use, which is fun. And honestly, yeah, just the 2 embodiment of lightning creating sigils are pretty premium in Acilio, I think. So
Okay.
don't sleep.
So
on
as we go through the lightning commons, we're gonna notice a trend here. Basically, all of these cards are lightning 0 for 4s that have some sort of conditional go again. And as a result of that, they're going to get very similar grades.
Yep. First one.
Yeah, so let's just kind of go through them.
Yeah.
Flittering Charge. If you've played an instant card this chain linked, it gets go again. It follows the 0 for 4 2-block pattern. This is one of the better ones because there's a lot of good instants in this set, like Electromagnetic Somersault. It's fine. It's good. You want a bunch of the reds because they're breakpoints.
Yep.
C plus B.
Notably, in Acilio, yellows are basically reds because ideally you're playing lightning cards, and then that is then amping your weapon. So the flittering charge, yellow only comes in for 3, but if it also gives you 1 arcane damage to like zap somebody at the end, then it's basically like you played a red.
Yeah. Yep. Next up, the saddest ball lightning, aka Fry. It's literally ball lightning without the cool text, but it is a 0 for 3, 0 defense, not a non-block, a 0 defense attack action. And yeah, so Fry is just a 0 for 3 go again. The blue is a 0 for 1 go again. A couple of these are fine to grease the lightning wheels in an Aurora deck. A couple more are probably a little better in Acilio because you do get the amp value out of Volzar to like make it even better on rate, but 0 block can be a very real liability. So
This is the only lightning card that has go again just printed on it, no hoops to jump through. So
yeah,
that's worth something.
Yeah.
definitely. Also worth something, the only block lightning common. Heaven's Claws is our other Tales of Aria reprint. I mean, there's still a couple more, but the accompaniment to Autumn's Touch. Um, it's probably your premium blue because it's a 3 block.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a 1 for 5. It's nothing special, but you don't mind adding some actual 3 blocks into your deck. So we've got I've got a C on this. Ray has got a C plus. Alex has a B. Um,
Bit split,
yeah,
but
it's
just trying to do it all around.
it will do.
The next is the best Lightning 0 for 4 with conditional go again in the set. Returning from Tales of Aria, Lightning Surge. If it's from Arsenal, it has go again. Card is fantastic. You're going to play the red, you're probably going to play the yellow, sometimes you'll even play the blue. And that's great.
Yeah, I
B,
definitely
B
think it's
plus.
one of the better blues because of that Arsenal text. But yeah, B plus territory. Never sad to run it. Uh, Next card pairs somewhat favorably to Blaze Hedgehog. It's not a perfect comparison, but Second Strike is a 0 for 3 base power lightning attack action. That's a 2 block. It says when this attacks, if you've dealt damage this turn, this gets +1 power and go again. So there's a lot of 0 for 4s in lightning. There's plentiful ways of giving those go again. Uh, and while sometimes your opponent will soul read you and be like, I'm going to make sure to stop this particular 4 damage effect so that you can't second strike me, uh, that's not always going to happen. And very frequently, this is just my second 0 for 4 with go again for the turn.
Yeah. I think the first Lightning Strike in your deck is really good. The second is okay. The third copy starts to get really bad because if you draw multiple Second Strike in one hand, it's terrible.
Notably, it doesn't have to be combat damage. If you're playing something with shock on it and they take the arcane damage, this will not then be a 0-4 go again.
Yeah, burn up shock into second strike is a pretty gross start to a turn. The next one, I think it's in a weird place. I think it's a bit underrated because it's one of the few defensive tricks that Lightning gets access to. That's Trip the Light Fantastic, which is a strange name for a card, but it is apparently a reference to a song. I'm not familiar with it, but yeah, I guess go look it up if you're like, wow, that's strange. Where'd that come from?
I think it's originally a poem, which was then referenced in several songs. But
Okay, fair. So it's a 1 for 5, 2 block lightning attack action. And says instant discard this, prevent the next 2 damage that would be dealt to you this turn. So This is the good, flexible kind of defense that you want. The instant ability, unfortunately, doesn't turn on Twinkle Toes, which would have been a huge boon to its playability, but it does not work like that. You have to use an instant card for Twinkle Toes to activate. Um, I think,
Okay.
particularly
Yeah.
into the mono arcane lists, if you have like 3 to 4 copies of this in your deck, I think if suddenly you can actually block out 2 of the 3 or 4 damage being presented by the wizard every other turn, you just slowed their clock down by 3 whole turns, and you're still playing an aggressive lightning deck that should be keeping the pressure on. Um,
Yeah.
Its direct comparison is Fruits of the Forest, where Fruits of
Yum
the
yum.
Forest, when you discard it, you gain 2 life, which is just always good. You can do that whenever you want. Where Trip the Light Fantastic, it's you can discard it whenever you want, but it's only going to be getting you value when there's actually damage coming across.
Mhm.
But the upside to Triple Light Fantastic is it actually prevents on hit effects
Blocks.
or on
Yeah.
surge effects,
Yep.
where Fruits of the Forest will just gain you the life so you don't die. Triple Light Fantastic will actually prevent those effects from happening.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to play multiple of this card in your deck. It's a particularly fantastic blue because it's very flexible. I have C plus. I think that's close to where we are unified.
yep, agreed.
Um,
And we had B's
our
for second strike and B plus for lightning surge.
yeah. Next up, another returner from Tales of Aria, downshifted from rare to common. Flash. Um, next action card gets go again with cost 0, 1, or 2, depending on the color, or greater. This don't let the lightning action type line fool you. This is essentially strictly an Acilio card to give multiple zaps go again and also amp a little bit on Volzar. And I really dislike this card outside of Acilio, i.e., don't play it in Aurora. The red is fine as a 1 of in Acilio, and I don't really want more than that.
Yeah, that's fair. Definitely one of the worst cards you'll be including in most lightning decks, and outside of red, you really aren't doing much with it. Then, second to last common is definitely one of the better ones. We've got Electrostatic Discharge, which is a 0 cost lightning instant, and then it has the Nimblism text. The next attack action card you play this turn with cost 1 or less gets +3. So with
Good.
Flittering Charge, go Flittering Charge is a 0 for 4, and then Electrostatic Discharge to give it go again, and then +3 to the next thing, and then any subsequent 0 for 4 is suddenly just 7 power attack coming in. So it's a really easy, 3 card 11 value, which is really solid and limited. Um, the instant shenanigans are potent with this card. It's another,
It's your best flittering charge enabler
yeah, definitely,
by a long shot.
and it's just a good rate. Turns, lets you convert hands
Yep.
for good offensive rate.
Yeah,
Links.
the reds you play all of them. The yellows are fine. The blues not good, but like a B minus. Y'all have B and C. I feel vindicated at B minus. Right in the
Nailed it.
middle.
Nailed it.
The best non-majestic sigil in the set, Sigil of Lightning. At the beginning of your action phase, destroy this lightning instant aura, and when it leaves, create an embodiment of lightning. So this can kind of be like double go again in Aurora. It can make an embodiment of lightning this turn and give you one next turn. Obviously great with Acilio because it discounts Volzar and helps glue together your lightning attacks to go again. Here's a zap. I'm pretty happy playing multiple copies of this in Lightning Heroes, whereas I'm not happy playing multiple copies of Sigil of Earth in Earth Heroes. I have this at like a C, C plus.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable to me.
Cool.
Um, yeah, I wouldn't want more than like 2 of them, but I'd love to have 2 of them in a lot of decks. All right, so that rounds out
Um,
lightning. We're going to get
mhm.
into the Runeblade section, which has some interesting ones. and then the wizard section, which the wizard section will go very, very
We can
fast,
go very
very
fast in
quickly.
Wizard.
But we'll still try and keep it moving.
Yeah.
So first Runeblade equipment is Bloodtorn Bodice, which is a Blade equipment chest. Doesn't block for anything, but has action. Destroy this and an aura you control. Gain a resource. Go again. Uh, it seems like a downside piece of equipment, but there's a card later on in this that is
Yeah.
called Arcane Cussing that this synergizes with wonderfully. And you sort of getting Bloodtoward Bonus means that the first Arcane Cussing you get has a bunch of extra value because you'll always get to sort of get your full value off of it. Um, and the
Yeah.
flexibility of eating an aura to get a resource back can fix some odd curved hands, and it's just solid. Uh, got A's and B's on this. Um, it's yeah, if you see it, pick it up because it's just a really nice synergy piece for the class,
It's not coming back to you.
and it's not
It's
coming
not
back
coming
to
back.
you.
Another piece
Also
of
not
equipment
coming
that
back
is
to you
not coming back to you.
is
Runehold release, Runeblade equipment arms. Action destroy this, create a rune chant token, go again. If you're Florian, create 2 rune chants, go again. It's Vexing Quill Hand in limited. It's real good. Notably, this combos really nicely with Rune Rager Swarm, which is a common that needs an aura to be created to have go again. It's You're just trying to play this card.
It combos with a
It's
lot of things because there's a lot
combos
of
with a
things
lot of
that
things.
if you've
if you've
played or
created an
created an
aura,
aura,
if you've dealt arcane damage, and yeah, lots of
yeah.
good stuff going on here.
If you see it, pick it. It's not coming back to you.
Absolutely.
See it, take it. It's not coming back to you. Also an A.
Next, we've got
Um,
Snuff Out, which is a majestic. It's a Runeblade critical strike. I don't think it's particularly good in limited. It's only good if you have a Malefic incantation in play, which those are also premium rare cards that you're not likely to have a great number of. So it's fine.
yeah.
If you want a 1 for 5/3 block, it's fine. The text on Snuff Out is when this hits a hero, you may destroy an aura you control. If you do, they discard a card. So the value proposition's fine. It's just hard to actually set it up where you're going to get that on hit threat in limited.
Yeah, the best thing to do is the Splintering Deadwood thing where you sack a Sigil of Earth, but doing it on a 1 for 5 is not as good as doing it on a 3 for 7, so it's like a C.
Yep, for sure.
Machinations of Dominion, on the other hand, is a blue 3-block Runeblade action that says give your next attack go again. So I'm in. It's just
So it's
the
specifically your
overpower
next
is almost like a
Runeblade attack
text.
action gets overpower,
Sure.
but it also you don't get go again unless you've made an aura. You always can give
Which,
overpower.
yeah, but that's somewhat trivial to do. Feels like more of a Florian card. Aurora doesn't really struggle for action points, but just being a blue 3-block with any text, like the floor is fine on this card.
Yeah, agreed. Not a bomb, but a fine include. Next, Succumb to Temptation. Uh, Also fine. Also definitely more of a constructed card than a limited one. It'll be a lot harder to try and set up the situations where you can sort of get the full value out of Succumb. Don't bend over backwards trying to make it work. Uh, if it's there in the middle of a pack, it's still a 3-block non-attack action that can have some relevant text, but
What does it do, Kevin?
well, you see, Succumb to Temptation is a Runeblade action, 3-block, pitches for 2, cost 0. Says if you've dealt arcane damage this turn, you may play it as though it was instant. The next time a Runeblade attack action card you control hits a hero this turn, look at their hand and choose a card. They discard it. Go again. So you can cheat an extra action point if you deal arcane damage because it has go again. You play it as an instant. It's a lot like Rattlebones in that way. The quote unquote Thoughtseize effect of picking a card from your opponent's hand and taking it away is extremely powerful. But it's just tough to facilitate the type of turns where this is going to be um, particularly easy to trigger in limited. But it's great use for your
I could
Runehold release.
I could see this lining up with like a Runehold release and then being able to swing the the Wildwood Reaper after it off the action point, because it's extremely unlikely that your opponent is blocking your arcane damage.
Yeah, but this also has to be a Rune Blade attack that hits too, so that like your big
Oh,
meaty Earth
really?
cards. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
constructed card. It's not a limited card. That's all right.
All right, moving on.
All
Haunting
right.
Rendition.
Card that is a limited card. Yeah, Haunting Rendition is a Runeblade block card. It blocks 4, but in case you don't have anything juicy to block with it, you can discard it to prevent the next 2 damage that will be dealt to you this turn, the Grid Prevention. And the first time you prevent damage this way, create a Rune Chant token. So this can stop arcane damage, just like Triple Light Fantastic, but you also get a Rune Chant, or it can block 4. It's not flashy, but it's fantastic. And you're gonna take it and you're gonna play it.
Yep, solid rate, no notes. Take it and play it. My favorite card in the set, and card that is actually in contention for my new favorite Flesh and Blood card in the game, Splintering
Wow.
Deadwood. It is a 3 for 7, 3 block Root Blade attack action that says when this attacks or hits, you may destroy an aura you control. Do create a Runechant token. So Alex mentioned earlier, there's the 2 different Earth sigils that you can have them in play. Play your Splintering Deadwood, eat your Earth sigil. You still get the embodiment or embodiments of Earth if Florian's active because the sigil leaves. But Splintering Deadwood eats the aura and turns it into 2 rune chants. And then if you're Splintering Deadwood, that's it's a 3 for 7. You're threatening a breakpoint. If it hits, you can consume either one of the rune chants and turn it into 2 rune chants, or eat one of your 2 embodiments of Earth and turn that into 2 more rune chants, which is just an excellent value play.
I'm gonna be honest. You had me at a 3 for 7,
3
B
for 7, block
minus.
3.
Yeah,
3 for 7 block 3, B minus.
it's phenomenal. I got this one at a B
Speaking,
plus, and it's
yeah.
very
So
Speaking
strong.
3 for
of,
3 for 7, block 3 that does cool things. Next.
Yep.
next actually is Vantage Point, which is a 3 for 7 block 3 that does cool things. If you've created or played an aura this turn that gets overpower, also in the B range. I think I have my
I
grades
think
switched
it's a
here. This
lot
should be a B
worse.
minus. This should be a B plus. Really, I like the closing power on this a lot.
I just very infrequently have had games where the overpower really mattered. It's
Really
9.5 out of 10 times it's just a 3 for 7. Um, which again is still fine. It's just I don't think the overpower is super relevant in
interesting.
most games.
I think I've drafted this card once and it won me a game with the overpower. But
Yeah, fair.
It has
It definitely can happen.
it's won me a lot of games because I always pitch it for second cycle with Sigil of Deadwood, so that I know that I can play an aura.
Stonks,
um,
stonks. Uh,
yeah, I mean it's a B minus. You're gonna play it because it's a 3 for 7 block 3.
yep.
Speaking of block 3s, a card that is not as good as I thought it was in previous season, but is still good. Condemned to Slaughter is a Runeblade action, 1 cost, 3 block. Your next Runeblade attack this turn gets +3. You may destroy an aura you control. If you do, each opponent destroys an aura permanent they control. Go again. So a couple of things with this card. The latter part is a real issue. Not a real issue. It doesn't happen as often as you would think it would. I don't know that I've actually played this card yet where it was profitable for me to kill something that I had for my opponent to sack something. But if you have an embodiment of Earth and they have a rune chant, it can be good.
Or
Um,
if you have a rune chant and they have an embodiment of lightning, got to do that one,
sure.
and that's intoxicating.
Yeah. My issue with this card is it says your next Rune Blade attack this turn gets +3. And there are not as many Rune Blade attacks that fit the 2 cost curve with this 1 cost Condemned to Slaughter as I would like.
It's a
So
sword.
yeah, the sword, yes, but you need to make an aura on top of playing Condemned to Slaughter because otherwise it's a 2 card 5
Yeah.
with the sword for 2, and that's not good.
Yeah, I mean the sigils of Earth and whatever can grease the wheels a bit,
Yeah,
but it's a 3 block non-attack. I think that your blue
it's
is
a
probably your favorite version of this because it's a blue 3 block.
yeah, it's a
Um,
C. It's a C.
It's a C. I think and it's a constructed card. So
Card that is not a C and is a constructed card.
it can be both. Malefic Incantation. Runeblade Action Aura, 2 block, 0 cost. Go again, enters the arena with 3 verse counters on it. When it has none, destroy it. Once per turn, when you play an attack action card, remove a verse counter from this. If you do, create a rune chant token. Great value. Card's never going to wheel. The yellow is extremely playable because it gives you 3 different turns with aura creation happening. And yeah, I have it as a B plus. That might even be a little low because of how
It might
premium
be low.
the reds are. Um, it's a repeat source of creating arcane and creating evasive damage. Is really strong.
And
Yeah, no
then
notes. Card's great and constructed too in multiple decks. So
the last
get your
Runeblade
foils
rare.
now.
Yeah, for real. Sigil of the Arcanite is a blue Runeblade action aura 2 block. 0 cost go again. Beginning of your action phase, destroy this, and when it leaves, reveal the top card of your deck. If it's an attack action card, put it into your hand. The issue is that Runeblade decks are only about half attack actions, and so this card does nothing about half of the time, which is not an acceptable thing for a card to do. It's like a D. You'll play it if you desperately need aura generators, but that's about all this card does.
Yeah, like this card is like a second cycle Aurora deck in my mind. If you know you can set it up to hit to give you like a 5 or 6 card hand to overwhelm someone, but I don't think Aurora games are getting to that point, and I don't even know that it's good enough to try and I don't know make the juice worth the squeeze. I have it as a D minus. If this ever misses, you literally spent a card for probably just no
Nothing.
value. It's
Yeah.
this might be no, there's at least one sigil worse than this, but not by much. All right, moving into the Runeblade commons, Arcanic Spike, aka Strictly Worse, starring Wildwood, is a 2 cost 5 base power Runeblade attack action. It's a 3 block. It says if you've dealt arcane damage this turn, this gets +2. So obviously, if it's a 2 for 7, that's a really good rate, but it's not always simple to generate the arcane damage that's coming through. Potentially give your opponent agency to stop it, to debuff your attack by 2 effectively. Got, C minus. It's a 3 block, it's fine, but it's not something
It's a
that you're writing home about or excited to pick.
it's a 3 block.
I think the art's cool.
The art
Art's
is
great.
spectacular.
Speaking of good art, Consuming Volition is reprinted from Crucible of War. Listen.
It's
anything
weird
to
art, but
segue,
it's good
right?
art.
1 cost, 4 power, Runeblade action attack, 3 block. If you dealt arcane damage this turn, it gets when it sits a hero, they discard a card. I'm underwhelmed with this one, to be honest.
Same.
It's fine.
Yeah, I think like C minus for the ceiling. If I'm paying 1 cost for an attack, I want it to be this next card. Hit the high notes.
Hit the high notes, much better. Consuming Volition will leave at a C minus. What does hit the high notes do, Kevin?
It is a miniature Shrill of Skullform. It's a 1 for 4 Runeblade attack action card that blocks 3, but it says if you've played or created an aura this turn, get +2. So the nice part with Hit the High Notes is it turns into a pretty nice 3-card hand with Oath of the Arcanite, which is another common in the set. So you can just pitch a single blue, swing for 1 arcane and 9 physical on a 3-card hand, which is pretty solid turn cycle all around.
Much better. Much better than Consuming Volition.
Yeah.
I think we all have this around a B.
Yep. B minus, just solid include. This next card is a
Florian card.
Is a Florian card, but honestly, I don't even really like it in Florian that much.
Oh, really? I love it in Florian.
I actually think it's better in Aurora because of the embodiments, and then it pretends like it's a 0 for 4 go again. But the card is Hocus Pocus. It's a 0 cost Runeblade attack for 3 power, 3 block, and when it attacks, create a rune chant token. It's one size down from Spellblade Strike. but also notably 1 cost down. Um, I think it's kind of chaff. It's okay. It's not the worst card to play, but you're not actively looking for them. I've got a C minus on this. Um, most of the other commons I would prefer to this card, um, but sometimes you take it just because it's a 3 block. So
Yeah, it's fine. It's good for stacking a big rune chant turn later, especially if you like have a malefic incantation out when you play it.
yeah, true, very true. Um, and then
Uh,
a payoff for some of our rune chant creation, or a really good use for your runehold release, is meet and greet. This hits. It's a 1 for 4 Runeblade attack, 3 block. It's a reprint from Crucible of War. When this hits, create a Runechant token. If you've dealt arcane damage to an opposing hero this turn, this gets go again. This is a really good card for sort of baiting your opponent into uh, activating their macro if they
mhm.
don't have other means of arcane prevention at the moment. Threatening this into a potential Rotwood Reaper for 4. That's going to get them to spend cards and burn the macro. And having a
No,
turn where you can eat that is important to getting to your end game state.
notably, the yellow is terrible because it's cleanly covered by a 3 block. Red's great because it's breakpoint. Blue is great because it's blue block 3. Do not play the yellow.
I've played the yellow
Uh,
before. The go again is still good though, even if it's not
uh,
going to hit.
sure. I mean, the card is a B.
Yeah, straight
Um,
straight B across the board.
a common that has really impressed me, and we have it as a C, but honestly, it might be better than that, is Rune Rager Swarm. At red, it's just a 0 cost, 3 power Runeblade Action attack. It blocks 3. If you played or created an aura this turn, it gets go again. The turns where you like Dirge an embodiment of Earth, or even just like you crack your gloves, you dirge it, you go Rune Rager Swarm, Sword. There's just it's a really good offensive overlap that your opponent with a handful of 2 blocks is not well prepared for. I really like this card. You just are always going to get 3 value out of it, whether it's attacking with go again or defending.
Yeah,
It's like a C
the
plus,
the
but it's
red the
good.
red's pretty premium, but it falls off pretty hard after that. I think.
Oh yeah, yeah, no. Don't play any non-red color.
Yeah. Blue's fine. It's 3 blocks still. Uh, Next up we have Arcane Swear Jar, aka Arcane Cussing. Um, so Arcane Cussing is a 1 cost action aura, blocks for 2, has go again. It says when you deal aura dealt damage, destroy this. When this leaves the arena during your turn, create 3 rune chants. With Florian active, it'll make 4 rune chants. This is the primo card to combo with the bodice, the chest. So you can pitch a blue, play cussing, break it, go back to 3 resources, and send your 3 for 7 with overpower and 4 rune chants is really strong. Um, or if you just have the spare resources lying around, playing cussing and then playing the overpower 3 for 7 because it probably connects and gives you your rune chance anyways is really good. Um, yeah, the first cussing is really good. You don't want too many of them because they can backfire if you don't have like good offense being churned out with them. But like the first red one, if you have the chest, is a premium pick.
Yeah,
Also, the colors fall off pretty quick.
Yeah,
colors fall off hard.
big
Yeah.
time, big time. Uh,
Um,
Similar
speaking of
story
no,
with Deadwood Dirge.
yeah, another non-attack action that color scales terribly. The red is a 0 cost, destroy an aura you control. If you do create 3 rune chants, go again, 2 block. And that's basically the only color of this card that you want to be playing. But wow, the red is good.
Yep. Yeah, like the first red is really solid. It makes those the medium sigil includes that you might have to be playing in a deck look a little better because there's just some spare synergy there. Um, it obviously looks insane with Arcane Cussing. If you dirge your Arcane Cussing with Florian online, you just made 8 rune chants with 2 cards, which is phenomenal. Um, yeah, but again, you don't want too many of these because you need the to feed them with other auras.
Mhm.
Um, Oath of the Arcanite, downshifted from Rare from Arcane Rising, uh, is another Rune Blade action. It's a 3-block non-attack action, which is pretty good. It costs 2 to use, and it says your next Rune Blade attack this turn gets +3. Create a rune chant, go again. And honestly, like, there's no color of this card that I hate including in my Florian decks.
Mhm.
On-demand access to
Yeah.
making an aura is really strong. Taking a turn to be like Oath of the Arknight into Swing Sword is a really fine turn cycle that only spends 1 card from deck for a good rate. Yeah, there's no color of this card that I'm disappointed to include in
Really
Florian
good with
decks.
hit the high notes. Really good with hit the high notes.
Yep, excellent curve there.
But it is definitely a Florian card. Sigil
Definitely.
of Deadwood, also mostly a Florian card, but surprisingly good. Just a blue go again sigil action. At the beginning of your action phase, destroy it, and when it leaves, create a rune chant token, but it's 2 rune chants if you're Florian. And the Wizards would play 0 for 2 arcane go again if they could. And that's kind of what Sigil of Deadwood is. So you're going to play this card.
Yeah, it's a blue. It checks enough boxes. It's 2 auras, which is 2 empowered sword swings in a late game grind. It's just a solid role player. And yeah, sorry. So we gave C plus B minus to Oath of the Arknight, B minus C plus to Sigil of Deadwood, B's across the board for both Arcane Cussing and Deadwood Dirge.
Yeah.
And C
With the
plus to
caveat that
Moonrager
they need to
Swarm.
be red.
Yeah, yes.
I really like Sigil Deadwood.
Yep. That's Alex's
I
really-
favorite bad card of the set.
It's not. It's just not a bad card. It's
Yeah,
just a good card.
That's true. All right, now we're definitely not
The
going to break our
Wizard.
record, but we are still going to speed run these Wizard cards pretty good.
Sorry, I need to talk about Sigil Deadwood for 10 seconds.
All right, here we go.
It's like the best late game card because you've either like pitched your if it makes an aura overpower, or you play it swing sword, and then next turn it creates a rune chant swing sword. So you just spent 1 card out of deck for 2 sword swings, which
Yeah,
is
5
Yeah.
or 6
quite
total
significant
value,
in
which
the
is
end
very
game.
good for a blue.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm done.
All right,
Okay, as our resident wizard, I'm going to guide us through these really fast
do it.
because most of them are zaps. Inclined Cloak. It is the worst equipment in the set that is not generic. Instant destroy this, gain a resource, but you can only do it if you have an aura with sigil in its name. The issue is a good Verdant deck plays 0 sigils, so this is just an Acilio card. It will wheel. Don't worry about it.
It is really
On
good in
the-
Astilio, though. I really
It's
like it.
really good in Acilio. It's really good in Acilio. There's probably 2 Acilio drafters at the table. You're going to get a copy on the back. On the other hand, Hold Focus, every wizard wants this. Card is very good. And being able to threaten a go again surge with only 1 card in hand on your Trailblazing Aether, which we'll get to in a second, is really, really powerful. Take Hold Focus when you see it. It's one of the better class equipment in the set.
Not
So
coming
we're
back to
giving that one will not come back to you. So we're giving like low C's, high D's to Incline Cloak, but we're giving B's to Hold Focus. As far as the Wizard Majestics go, Destructive Aethertide, the best sap in the set, is a blue wizard action that blocks 3, deal 1 arcane, any target. And if it surges, you destroy a card in their arsenal. That's a pretty real threat in Limited, and it's a really good card. You're going to play it, you're going to take it, etc.
It won't wheel.
Like, it won't wheel. It's Alex has it at a C right now. You really think it's that low, Alex?
in limited specifically, yeah.
Okay.
I think it's just fine. Like your opponent's not always gonna have an arsenal versus like other zaps that their surge effects are always relevant.
That's true. Speaking of a card that is definitely constructive oriented, Eternal Inferno is a 1 cost. Deal 4 arcane damage to any target. If it surges, and you can banish it and play it from your banish this turn, but you need to find an action point to play it with, which kind of happens in Acilio sometimes with Flash, but really this is just a 1 for 4. It's like a C minus because of that. Like the surge is not really relevant. Sigil of Aether. Aether is a blue 0-cost wizard instant sigil. At the beginning of your action phase, destroy this. When it leaves, you deal 1 arcane damage, and if damage is dealt, aka if it's not prevented, you then amp 1. Pretty good in limited. It's a bad sigil of Deadwood, because sometimes you like get half the damage out of it. But it's instant speed sigil of Deadwood, but it doesn't block. So it's like, I don't know. I would put this card at like a B. Alex has it as an A.
Yeah, I just think it is a great way to bait out your opponent's prevention effects,
Macro.
like the
Interesting.
macro or well-grounded, where it's like, oh, I can activate this macro one time and get 2 value out of it. It's like, okay, cool. Now I'm going to staff perennial Aether Bloom now that you don't have it next turn,
Okay.
or whatever. And if they do let it hit, even better. I'll do the same thing and it'll still hit. And then in Acilia, it's also just giving you a resource too, and it's blue.
Yeah, that's fair. Definitely better in Acilio than Verdance. Last Wizard Majestic, Mental Block. It's no Haunting Rendition. It's a blue wizard block that blocks 2. You can instant discard it to prevent the next 2 damage that would be dealt to you, the good prevention. The first time you prevent damage this way, create a Ponder token. Here's the issue in Limited. Lots of Limited decks have lots of really bad Ponders. And so if this is a blue block 2 and you can't arsenal what you ponder, that's atrocious. Don't put this card in your deck. It's real bad.
Not.
For the wizard rares, we have several. Chorus of the Amphitheater, Kano Constructed All-Star. 2-cost red, deal 4 arcane damage to any target, but that's not why you're playing this card. You're playing this card because it says instant, discard this. If an action card or instant card you control would deal arcane damage this turn, instead it deals that much plus 1. So what I like to do with this, and it's really popular in the mono arcane Verdance decks right now, or mono arcane wizard decks, is you either pitch stack or you naturally draw Chorus of the Amphitheater and just like 3 Trailblazing Aethers, and you just discard Chorus, Surge Go Again card, Surge Go Again card, Finisher Zap, and that's kind of like the
Finisher
dream
Zap.
at least.
Surge,
That's kind of like
deal
the
more
dream at
arcane.
least. Yeah. It's really good. The blue, I think, is the best because you really don't want to play the 2 for 4 arcane stat line if you can. So you would prefer to just pitch it or discard it. But honestly, you're going to play any color of this. I think the first copy you'll play in your wizard decks. It falls off from there.
Yeah, I mean, 4 arcane damage in limited is still.
Yeah, but
Still good,
two cost is steep.
I mean,
Too steep.
I don't like it, but 4 arcane damage is 4 arcane damage.
Yeah.
We've got C's across the board on Chorus.
Glyph Overlay, the biggest build around me in the set. This is a book. 1 cost, wizard action, 3 block, deal X plus 3 arcane damage, where X is the number of aura permanents you control with sigil in their name. And then if it surges and deals more than 3, or 2 or 1 at yellow and blue, gain 1 life, which is like, hey, Verdance, look, you can also play me. Then shuffle all aura permanents you control with sigil in their name into their owner's deck. This is a great Acilio payoff. And in Verdance, it's a 1 for 3 arcane. And you'll play it in either deck, but you're going to live the dream with it in Acilio. And it's fine. It's a C. It deals arcane damage, so you're going to put it in your deck.
Tracks.
Pop the Bubble is another zap. So we're at zap counter number 2 after Destructive Aether Tide. This one, when it surges, you destroy an aura permanent. That's a pretty good surge. It's not the best surge, and so Pop the Bubble ends up being like a C because it's a zap. So you'll just play it in your wizard deck.
Yes, indeed.
Save the Thought is this set's Weird Remembrance. It's a 2-cost wizard instant. Shuffle up to 3, 2, 1 non-attack action cards from your graveyard into your deck. Create a Ponder token. Surprisingly relevant when you're playing against Earth Heroes, because they're going to try to fatigue you as a wizard. And this is basically turning 1 card in deck. This is letting you play a 32-card deck, which is pretty relevant to outlast their life gain with more arcane damage. I think it's
You don't
a
want
great sideboard card.
multiples. It is.
You want exactly one, and it's a sideboard card.
Yep.
But
Ideally
it's
red.
great.
Ideally red.
Ideally red. Don't play the blue.
All right.
And then, sorry, one more wizard rare. Sigil of Temporal Manipulation. At the beginning of your action phase, destroy this. When it leaves the arena, banish the top card of your deck. If it's a non-attack action card, you may play it this turn as though it were an instant, and this card is an instant. If you thought Sigil of the Arknight couldn't get any worse, it could. What if missing actively fatigued you an extra card?
And it doesn't
Yay.
block in a pinch. Like, at least the other one's like, I'm a 2-block. That's something.
Yeah.
This
The
one.
weird case scenario is if you're playing Verdance, you've decomposed once with 3 Earth cards, and this hits another Earth card off the top. It puts the Earth card in banished, and now you don't have to decompose again for your hero power to be
We
online.
stand corrected. There is one
That's-
way to banish extra Earth cards in the set.
That's definitely the dream.
Missing
It's
on
just not gonna
temporal
happen often.
manipulation. Oh my god. Alright. On to the commons. Downshifted from rare. Aether Quickening is a 1 for 4 arcane, 3-block wizard action. When it surges, if it deals more than 4, 3 or 2, it gets go again. Solid
Really good.
inclusion. It's very good. You want that card. They have printed a Zap-sized version of it in this set as well, which is even better.
Trailblazing Aether. You will also play that card. I think we've given them the same grades. Yeah, they're both high Bs.
Yeah,
Low
solid
Bs.
Bs for both of them. B for both.
Next up in the commons, we have another paired set. 1 Zap and 1 Scalding Rain that both have the same effect. So the Zap is an Arcane Twining, which is a 0-cost, deal 3 arcane damage to any target. Instant, discard this amp 1. Photon Splicing is the Scalding Rain variant. It's a 1-cost, deal 4, instant, discard this amp 1. These are both pretty good. Notably, they're useful in Verdance, because if you need an action card to decompose in a pinch, you can just discard them to put them in your graveyard. Arcane Twining is like a C. There's better Zap variants. Photon Splicing also like a C-ish. Sometimes the amp just lets you win the game, and that's really useful.
True. I like when my cards say win the game on them.
Next up, we have Etchings of Arcana, which is a Zap. Surprise. But also, it has secret Acilio specialization text. If it surges, you can return an aura with Sigil in its name from your graveyard to your hand. Like I said earlier, the best Verdance decks play 0 Sigils, which means this is a blank Zap in those decks, which means it's like a D+. But in a good Acilio deck, and you're rebuying Sigil of Lightning, or even better, this card is fantastic. It's like a B-, a B, a B+ in a good Acilio deck. So it really depends on which hero you've drafted there.
Yeah, it's probably just the premier Acilio arcane finisher spell. Because you're rebuying action points and just great value.
Next up, we have Exploding Aether. It is a wizard action, amp 3 for 2-cost, and it says go again. It's the second wizard action ever that just says go again on it. I hate it. It feels very out of flavor for the class, but this is what it looks like. This card is essentially just tech for the mirror, in my opinion, because when Arcane is being thrown at you, and you can't block it conventionally, you need a way to convert your large hands back at your opponent. And if you can't gain life, you might as well subtract their life. I know some people have some success in the mono arcane wizard depths with this card, period, but I'm kind of skittish about that because the rate on this card is bad and it's a 2-block. So if Florian throws a bunch of 2-card 8s at you, he can kind of just outrace you.
Yeah, it's a
It's
fine role player. We're a little split on this one. Alex put A, you put C, I put B.
yeah, we're actually very divided. Do you
Oh.
want to comment, Alex? Because I think this card
Um,
is fine.
If this just said 2 costs, 3 arcane damage, go again, block 2,
I would be. Oh,
I would play it.
I think I would like that way more.
Right. Well, that's to me. That's exactly what this says.
No, but if I'd go again, I could follow it up with something good, like a cadaverous tilling. The fact that I have to follow this up with an arcane spell that is also below rate is what makes it painful.
But in the case of this limited environment, your surge effect is almost certainly going to hit. So
That's true. That's true.
so
So yeah, you're
So
right.
you
If
could
I etchings and get my sigil brilliance back, then I'm above rate.
yeah. Or if you
play another zap, which
exploding
is
aether
3 more.
into aether quickening, then you can play your cadaverous tilling.
That's a 5-card hand, but yeah, it's possible. That's a clean 15.
I mean, an exploding aether, a perennial aether bloom, which is
Yeah.
it's coming up. I don't know. I like uninteractable damage.
That's
For
true.
sure. We'll go to what I think it looks like we've agreed is the worst.
It's the worst spell in the
The worst
set.
one in the set. It's cracked in LL, but that 2 cost at the top and the lack of action point shenanigans going on in the set makes Open the Floodgates just a bit worse. It's a 3-block wizard action, cost 2. It says deal 3 arcane damage to target hero. Surge if this deals more than 3. Draw 2 cards.
Yeah.
It's tome on an arcane spell, but you're lacking for things to do with those cards once you've drawn them, so it's a glorified ponder.
Yeah, you've got to. The
You have to
dream
be
with this card
specifically Acilio, specifically have flash.
and specifically be able to surge and draw 2 cards off the top that
That
are
do something.
useful.
You know what,
Yeah,
though? Maybe
it's
that's the Acelia archetype that's untapped with the bad colors of Flash that nobody wants, and you're just like, I'm the Open the Floodgates deck. And you just go
maybe.
Flash open, Flash
I
open, Flash open.
I I need to see it before I believe it. This card is like a D, if not an F. It's not an F because it's a 3-block, but it's pretty bad.
Yeah, definitely one of the worst ones, though, on
Um,
average.
Next, we have Overflow the Aetherwell, one of the worst zaps, but not the worst after Open the Floodgates. This is a true zap, 0 for 3 arcane damage, Surge, gain 2 resources. I remember wizards everywhere freaking out about this card when it was first spoiled, and then they got Open the Floodgates. So most of the time in Acilio, this card is textless. Where it's actually useful is in Verdance, you surge, and now you have 2 resources to play your Fertile Ground that you don't have to pitch for. And that's kind of living the dream. It turns into a 2-card 8, where it's half life gain, half offensive arcane. It's fine. I would rather have Perennial Aether Bloom in my deck. But it's like a low C, a high D, as far as zaps go, because there's just so many zaps.
Yeah.
The
We had
best.
to raise our standards for zaps with this set.
Yeah. The best and the last zap, because we already covered Photon Splicing and Trailblazing Aether, Perennial Aether Bloom. It is a zap. When it surges, it goes on the bottom of your deck, which means that Verdance, with her forever amping Staff of Verdant shoots, has a really bad weapon in this format of Staff of Surgent shoot, Staff of Verdant shoots,
You say bad
Perennial Aether
weapon,
Bloom.
I just hear forever unblockable damage weapon.
You are correct. This card is fine in Acilio. If you're getting fatigued as Acilio, there are bigger things wrong with your deck. But in Verdance, it just is the best sap because you will get fatigued without copies of Perennial Aether Bloom. And for that, we have it at around a B. The last wizard card, Sigil of Forethought. This is a blue instant wizard card. At the beginning of your action phase, destroy this, and when it leaves, make a ponder token.
This is the
You
worst sigil in the set, in
this
my
is
book.
this is the worst sigil in the set. You will play it in Acilio if you need some sigils, especially if you need an instant for your flittering charges to give them go again. And outside of that, this card's terrible. Don't play it if you can help it.
For sure. Not good.
Into the home stretch.
Into the home stretch, in the generics. There's not that many. We're almost through this. Thank you for sticking with it. To start off this
Balloons?
generic
Is it balloons
sections,
time? Balloons?
balloons.
Yeah.
Are we
Comment
bringing
balloon.
back
Comment
balloons?
balloons if you're still
If you're
listening to this.
Okay.
no, we need something
Next set,
different
we
than
have to come up
balloons,
with
though.
a comment fan. If you
There you go.
oh, but people will just say that they're a fan, and then it's like
For how few of those
not
comments we
obvious.
get, I think I'm willing to risk it. Comment
Okay.
fan. Use it in a sentence stealthily. Okay, so we've got a cycle of generic equipment here that are all templated like Runaways because Runaways is one of the equipment. Hood of Second Thoughts, used leather, four finger gloves, and Runaways all have the same text printed on them. They are equipments for each different slot. They all have 0 defense, and they each have an instant speed activated ability that says destroy this, prevent the next 1 damage that would be dealt to you this turn. Activate this only if you've been dealt damage this turn. So it is, it's not going to stop the initial arcane barrage, which is important, but it can stop a key breakpoint after that. If you are like, oh no, I had to take arcane damage and my opponent's swinging this meet and greet at me, you can cash in your runaways with a 3 block to prevent the meet and greet from hitting, not let it create 1 or 2 rune chance, depending on which blade is swinging it at you.
Yeah,
It's
I mean,
just extra points of health.
I think these equipment are all worse in slot compared to the class or talent options, with the exception of Bruised Leather in Verdance. I will prefer it over Inclined Cloak any draft. And otherwise, I think I want the non-generic equipment. But you will play them if you don't have any better options.
Yep.
Which
I
makes them
concur.
which makes them Ds.
Yeah. They're
Okay.
they're filler. They're extra
Yeah.
points of life.
We
So
have
let's cut
some
through the chaff and
generics
get to the
here.
facade.
Yeah, I mean, Cut Through the Facade is a 3 cost, 7 power, 2 block. It can't be defended by auras. When it hits, destroy an aura they control. The first line is trinket text. The second line is good. It's like Summer's Fall, but it's interactable. You're just going to play this card. It's a very safe first pick because it's generic. It's good. It's like a B plus.
I don't, so it's gonna be trinket text plenty often, but there's a lot of like 2 block sigils and stuff in this set, and you could just eat an aura at an inconvenient point in time potentially, or cycle. Well, I guess you sort of just like push it through a turn sooner, right? Like if your opponent has a sigil of earth in play, you hit it, you can destroy that and make it an embodiment of earth this turn, so they don't get the turn cycle with the embodiment value. It's super niche, and it's not not going to come up much, but there's a bit of upside there. That's pretty decent. And
I
you're right,
haven't
it's a
seen the card in
generic.
person yet, so
Oh really?
What?
I haven't seen it.
I don't think I've seen one either, actually.
I think I opened like 1 copy.
All right. Well,
It's got cool art.
next up we've got the funniest card in the history of Flesh and Blood, and it also is really good. 10-foot tall and bulletproof is a 3 cost, 10 power, 10 block generic action attack. But when you do anything with it except pitch it, you get you get you get
You get
-2
stupid.
intellect, which is really bad until you realize you can just arsenal this card until it's too much damage for your opponent to block out. And then it's a 2-card 10 as a game closer. And when every game goes to second cycle in this format, you can just pitch it to second cycle and know that it'll come back, and your opponent is on a ticking clock.
Yeah, and if the games grind down and people will like hover in the 7 to 8 life point range for a while, and going minus intellect for a turn cycle isn't necessary. Like if you're taking at least 3 cards from your opponent because they need to block it out, there's a moment of reprieve anyways, and sometimes just the raw value you're getting from a singular card can be worth it.
Yeah. Our next two Majestics are blue non-attack actions, Call to the Grave and Truce. These are both constructed cards. Call to the Grave puts a card from your deck into your graveyard. Go again. And Truce has a lot of text that says either you draw a card or both heroes gain life. Both of these cards are bad. They actively fatigue you in a format where you can only play 30 cards and every card matters. Don't put these cards in your limited decks. You can play Truce because it's a blue 3 block, but they're both Ds.
Yep, agreed. Next we've got a cycle, a pseudo cycle of attack actions with different on hits. We've got Hand Behind the Pen, which is a 2 for 6 2 block. We've got Smash Up, which is a 1 for 5 2 block, and Tongue Tied, which is a 3 for 7 2 block. And Hand Behind the Pen says when this hits a hero, turn a card in their arsenal face up, then banish a non-attack action card from their arsenal. Smash Up has the same text for attack actions, and Tongue Tied has the same text for instants. They're all fine.
Fine is exactly how I would describe them. Yeah.
Smash Up is a solid constructed card. It kind of can fit in with some Lexi turn cycle sizing pretty decently. But like Tongue Tied's a 3 for 7, and you'll run it because it's a 3 for 7. But the on hit isn't particularly premium, and if there's an instant in their arsenal, they can usually just play out said instant before it actually hit and remove said card. So
I also just think that like these cards are not Earth or Lightning, and their upsides are marginal. So there's a lot of times where they don't make the cut in your decks. You will play the Heaven's Claws over the Hand Behind the Pen, and you'll be really happy about it. They're fine. They're like C's, C minuses in limited.
yep, C minus. That's spot for each of them. Alex likes Tongue Tied a little bit because it's 3 for 7.
Yeah,
Fair.
3 for 7.
Fair point.
Next up is a deck
Next
that
up
you
is
will
Rhea's Dinner.
tune in whenever the VOD goes up. I'm going to be interviewing Jacob on Wednesday night as I eat this Count Your Blessings. Speaking of, the next card is Count Your Blessings, which in limited is a really cool deck that you're going to get to draft once this format.
Yeah.
It's the red is okay with no other copies in the deck. The yellows and blues are atrocious unless you have like 2 or 3 other Count Your Blessings.
Yeah, if you're trying to make Count Your Blessings happen in limited, you've got to have 2 reds to start it off, like whatever else you're doing. You need to be close to kind of on rate, and then you can start being like, oh, well, now suddenly these yellows and blues don't look as bad because first pack I ended up with, maybe you get 1 red in pack 1, and then in pack 2 you're like, oh, there's a red Count Your Blessings in here. I'll take the second one, and now we'll live the meme dream.
I do think the red is generally just worth speculating on because just gain 3 life is not bad in this format. And then if you get past more, it's like, all right, we're doing the thing. That being said, it's like a D minus unless you have the Count Your Blessings deck, and then it's like a B plus.
Yep, fully synergy reliant.
Next up, my vote for the worst sigil in the set, Sigil of Cycles, is a blue zero cost generic action or a 2 block go again. At the beginning of your action phase, destroy this. Whenever it leaves the arena, discard a card, then draw a card. Oh, I sure would love to fatigue myself of 2 cards with no numeric value.
So my one counterpoint to that is if your opponent is not letting you block at all, this puts 2 cards into yard for decomposing. Still not great, but
Yeah, I mean
it's better than the Wizard Ponder one for sure. It
that's an
blocks
effect
too.
I want to pick up on like the wheel 12th pick though. That's not a card I'm interested in taking remotely early.
Yeah, that's fair.
And so it's like a D because of that.
You and I both put F, and I don't disagree
I
with it. I just think
I
that
mean,
it's not
yeah.
the worst.
If this card's in my deck, something is going wrong. I
Speaking
can't
of
believe it's
very much
I
not the
can't believe it's
worst,
a rare.
yeah, I can't
Thank
believe Final's
goodness it's
Fighting
a
Spirit
rare.
is a common.
Yeah.
Downshifted from was it Uprising originally, right? Fighting Spirit.
Uprising, yeah.
Downshifted from rare from Uprising limited. Got Final's Fighting Spirit. It's a 3/7, 2 block. If you're lower than your opponent when you attack with it, you gain a life. Be a 2 card 8. That life gain is huge. I've had limited games where even still end up losing, where I've like gained 18 points of life in a game because you can let your opponent chip you a little bit so that you can get you know extra value off all your fighting spirits as they come along. Um, just a rock solid inclusion at every color.
Yeah. Yeah, you're gonna play all the colors B plus.
Yep, B
Especially good in
plus.
verdants, because life gain equals arcane.
Yeah.
A card where life gain equals arcane, but it's really bad. Sigil of Fiendel. Blue 2 block generic action aura. Go again. At the beginning of your action phase, destroy this. When this leaves the arena, gain 1 life. I don't know about you. I love when my opponents play Sigil of Fiendel because it's like, thank you for taking a card out of your deck and tearing it in half for essentially no benefit.
Yep, I'm with you. It's pretty bad. It's almost as bad as Sigil of Cycles, or
Almost as
almost
bad
as
as
good as Sigil of Cycles. Sorry, I think it's worse than it. Uh,
I think you're right,
at
actually.
least like Sigil of Deadwood, we came up with a situation where you could get 5 to 6 value out of a Sigil of Deadwood. This doesn't have a token to propagate or do anything extra with. So the pinnacle of this is gaining two. You're
Gain one,
gaining
deal
a life
one.
and deal one. So yeah, the ceiling of this card's 2 value. So pass, please.
On the
Um,
other hand,
much better. We have
uh,
Arcane Polarity, which
mhm.
is a generic instant, 0 cost, gain 1 life, except if you've been dealt arcane damage this turn, instead gain 4 life. So this gets along well with
Really
the
good.
Runaways equipment suite. Yeah, it's like an arcane defense reaction of sorts. It's
It's
obviously not
so
actually
good.
preventing the damage, but gain
Yeah,
4 life gain on a single card is really strong.
yeah.
I would not
I
fault
think.
anyone for like pack one pick oneing a red copy of this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think you play the red in any mashup in the format. I think you play the yellow against anyone that's not Aurora. And I don't really love the blue because it's the ceiling is gain 2 life. But like there are some blues it's better than. But that leaves it at like a high B for me
Yeah,
for this generic common, which is crazy.
it's just such an important safety valve to have when people are mono arcaning.
Mhm.
Well,
And
it's also every hero does arcane damage in the set,
Yeah,
so it's never a
it's
dead
never
card.
dead.
yeah,
Yeah,
and bringing us home the
the last
shroud
card in the
of
set.
general disappointment, uh, brush off. 0 cost, generic instant. The next time you would be dealt 3, 2, or 1 or less damage this turn, prevent it. This is the bad prevention. If you prevent 1 point with brush off, you have only prevented 1 point. You don't the rest of it. If you would take 4 damage and you try and prevent it with brush off, you don't prevent any. So it's the worst of both worlds of the preventions. The first red one is fine if you're a Twinkle Toes deck. I guess if you're confident you're going to be facing a mono arcane opponent, you probably just bring it in and hope that you can get your 3 defense out of it. But
Yeah, I
I don't
think
want this into Florian. I don't really want this into Aurora. Probably don't even want it into Acilio.
it's an F. I don't want this in my deck. Even with Twinkle Toes, I want to be playing like Sigil Lightning or something.
Yeah, fair. All right. Well, we
I
ended
think
on.
I think the red one is fine. Like I said, the first one. I'm even fine with it if I don't have Twinkle Toes. Twinkle Toes obviously makes it a lot better, but just the amount of zaps, 0 for 3, arcane, this being able to interact with that is good. And then also there's no attack reactions in the set. So when you're attacking for 6, like this just is a 3 block. As long as I have another 3 block.
Yeah, all
Where
right.
Yeah.
That's a fair point.
in Outsiders it was a lot scarier because like I'm gonna brush off this and then they're gonna
Spike
sharp
with
sharp it.
blood rot, and you'll take 8.
Yeah,
Yeah,
everything's a bit more face up in this set. I
that's
don't
very
hate
true.
I don't hate brush off as much as you two do.
Fair, fair. All right. Well, we did not break our time record, but it also just occurred to me that this set is a decent bit bigger than the last couple sets as far as like total number of cards in the set wise.
So,
So
are
yeah.
we ready to start expansion slot cards?
Oh yeah. Next week on Dragon Ball Z. Yeah. Uh, so if you made it all the way to the end with us, uh, thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out. Comment that you're a fan of balloons. And you know, maybe we'll send you something. Um, any closing thoughts on Rosetta Limited?
It's my favorite draft format so far. It is officially my favorite draft format so far
I
in the whole
think
game.
it is fun so far, and then also I think it's going to stay fresh for us because none of us are going to Worlds or playing in a Tier 4 event in it, so we're not going to be grinding it. So I feel like this is going to be one that we'll come back to often.
Oh yeah, I don't know how to draft Lightning. I just force Earth every time. Confession at the end of set review.
Mark would be proud. Mark would be proud. Yeah, on the one hand, I balance the okay, I should be able to draft all 4 heroes and like find the right seat and do what I want to do. But on the other hand, I have so much fun playing Florian Unlimited and just trying to make it all work out. Uh, I've been past way too many Splintering Deadwoods for it to be right, and that card's just so phenomenal, so powerful.
Well, I think I'm gonna go dream about splintering Deadwood now.
Do it.
It's past my bedtime.
Same,
Yeah.
same. Well, thanks again for hanging out, everyone. We'll be back next set. We will try and actually break our time record then. Um, if you agree or disagree, or have any other thoughts on Rosetta Limited or any of the cards or our grades, hit us up in the comments and let us know what you think. We'll be back again next week with another episode, and we'll finally be back to our regular episode cadence. So, thanks for hanging out. Until next time, see ya.